Yeah, boy. Okay. I should have the character sheets. Okay, good. So we are playing a Burning Wheel introductory scenario. It's a part of this sort of three-part thing, three-part story arc. The first bit is called Trouble in Hawken. It's Trouble in Hawken involves the village of Hawken, which is this small village in the countryside of a duchy called Verdorben, ruled by the Duke of the same name, because it's his duchy. And of late, there has been rumors in the darkest of winter times that there is famine in Hocken. They have not prepared adequately for the season, which is brutal, admittedly, but they are apparently experiencing famine, according to the rumors. And then the darker rumors hint at some sort of infernal activity in Hocken, whether that's a cause for the famine or something else entirely, that remains to be seen. And we have two heroes who have set out from Mecklenburg, which is I believe it's the capital of the duchy and the seat of the Duke. We have two travelers who are coming to Hocken to find out if the rumors are true and to help the locals in this harsh winter time. And well, we have two heroes, Bryn and Gunther. So Bryn, can you give us a small description?
Yeah, Bryn is a haughty, noble sorceress who's trying to make a bit of a name for herself. And what better way to do that by being an adventurer? And, if I happen to get a bit of fame and riches on the way to that, that's absolutely grand. But my real reason for sort of getting involved in this is my family has a bit of a sort of dark history with darker magics and evil sorceries, and I'm really not on board with that. I'm trying to sort of let people know that magic is a wonderful thing that can be used for the good of everybody, and it's not something that has to be feared. It's not magic that's corrupt, it's people that are corrupt.
And our second hero, astride, no doubt, his horse, majestic beast that it is Gunther. So over to you, Gunther.
Indeed. Gunter, a handsome chap, a little under average height. He's a low-born knight, sworn to the service of his Duke, Verduben. He has been requested to go to this little village and investigate some disturbing rumors we've been hearing at court. But just like his colleague, he has other reasons to be venturing here. His family is from this place, and he's been hearing his father is not well and wants to check in and make sure all is well.
I'm sure it is. So, does Bryn have a horse, by the way? I forget. Let's see. Bryn.
If she doesn't, I'm sure that I could facilitate her with one.
Oh, I don't think Bryn has a horse. So,
Well, I was going to suggest that perhaps I'll be riding on the back of Gunther's horse.
yeah, exactly.
I'm sort of envisioning myself as obviously being someone who's like schooled in the occult. I've no doubt been sent here to accompany Gunther since he's the sort of strong right arm of the Duke, whereas I perhaps know a little bit more about the ins and outs of the arcane, so I'm here in like an advisory capacity.
Yeah. In case the rumors turn out to be true and there is some sort of nefarious things going on here. In Intriguingly, though, the court did not send a priest. They sent a sorceress.
Unusual, I thought.
Yep, something to keep in mind.
Who is it for me to question my duke's word?
Mhm. So you both are astride the horse of Günther, and next to the horse in the snow pads your dog, Günther. Your loyal hound. That is, I think it's a dog that's granted to like every knighted individual. Like every knight gets a dog. Like it's a custom of the land. The duke presents them a dog from his own kennels, and it's like you've basically raised this one yourself. So
It's a wonderful gift.
mhm. So the dog is padding along as you ride down the winter road. This is in the hinterlands of the duchy, and the roads are ill kept, especially this far away from the capital. And you pass countless fields, dark forests, and you have now come to the Felsbach River that marks the boundary, essentially, of the Hawken village. You see ahead of you a bridge across the Felsbach, and the bridge is one of those affairs. You can see it on the map here. Here, it's one of those with a roof on top, enclosed bridge, and on the bridge is an individual dressed in warm winter robes, who is as soon as you crest the nearest hill, he's flagging you down essentially.
Excuse me, sorry.
It is late afternoon as you ride. So you urge the horse towards the bridge, and you hear this man shout, "Welcome, travelers! Come you from the capital?" he says.
I assume is it sort of like, it's like you said it was winter, is like snow falling at the minute?
Yeah, there's heavy snow, and it's starting to snow more and more. So you presume that night is going to be a fairly heavy snowfall, or even a storm if the weather picks up.
So I'm assuming that myself and Gunter are sort of fairly well padded out, because obviously if he's wearing metal armor and it's like,
yeah, mm-hmm.
he's gonna need some padding under that, or he'll be like,
yep,
he'll be frozen by the time we get there. So
I'll have my winter coat on, of course, with my lord's crest on the breast.
Of course.
My little doggy will have like a little jacket on.
Mm-hmm.
I'll sort of lean round Gunter, because I'm fairly sort of small and petite, so I lean round Gunter, and I sort of holding my hood, like, you know, those fur lined hoods, like on against the wind and the snow. I'm like, yes, yes, we're just in from the capital. Can you advise us of somewhere where we might get a warm meal and shelter out of this terrible weather?
This individual shakes some snow from his coat arms, and pulls back his hood. He's like around 40-ish, man, starting to bald quite heavily, and he walks a little bit closer to you and says, "That's all very well, and we are eternally thankful to you for having come all this way, but everything is fine, and we are again eternally thankful. We do not require further aid, so I have brought you," and he fishes around in like a leather sack and pulls out a couple of like cloth wrapped bundles. "I've prepared you some bread and sausages for the road back to the capital," and he's making to like offer them to you to turn away and take the food and go.
Gunter holds up his hand. "That is a kind offer, sir. However, I have been sent by my duke. The grid, Verduben, as I'm sure you know. And as much as I do not question your words, I was sent here to do a job. And that means I will have to go into town and do my work.
And as he's saying that, I'm going to sort of reach down to like the saddlebag where like my sort of staff's like slung alongside the horse, and I'm going to sort of pick up the staff, because I expect this person's not being honest with us, because we've heard all these rumors and he's suddenly like, no, everything's fine, nothing to see here. So I'm going to sort of, not in like a threatening way, I'm just going to hold up the staff and like point in his general direction, and I'm going to cast the weird light, so like globes of light appear around
Ooh.
and basically my attempt, the reason I want to do this is because I'm then going to point the staff at him with this light around and be like, the light of truth reveals all faults, us, in the hope that it'll sort of like make him think, oh, I probably shouldn't be lying to these,
like,
these people.
Yep. So we turn now to the rule book, and we are going to cast a magic spell. This session is going to involve us looking through rules quite a bit. This is the first time John and Matthew have played the game, and I've played the game quite a bit. But it's been a couple of years after since I've run this game actively, so my memory is not the most fresh when it comes to all of this. Still, we will make a valiant effort. So it was word light. Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, you have the rules in your character sheet, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I can tell you what it says on the character sheet. Just give me a second.
Yeah.
Okay, so the spell Weird Light, it lists an obstacle rating of 2. It's sustained, but as you said, my staff can sustain the Weird Light.
Yep.
Globes of swirling light orbit the caster and move with a speed equal to the caster's will. The lights hover and float at the caster's command, illuminating as though they were torches, but may not move beyond the limits of my presence. So I'm just going to have them sort of like spiraling around the staff and whatnot.
So they will dance around the tip of your staff. So please roll your sorcery, and the obstacle is going to be 2 in this instance.
Let's give it a go. So no modifiers, no Arthur, base obstacle 2. There we go. Success.
Yep. There we go. Right. Oh, let me see. Okay. A point of order. So your 4 dice. You rolled 5, 6, 1, and 4. In Burning Wheel, 5, 6, and 4 are successes. So you have 3 successes. You rolled 1, 1, which is a failure. You have what's called fate points. I think you have 2 of them each. And if you roll 6s on your rolls, if you want to roll those 6s again as additional dice, you can do that with spending 1 fate point per roll. Just something to keep in mind for the future.
Yeah, that is definitely a cool thing, but I think I'll hold off for the moment.
Yeah,
it's
you don't.
Simple spell.
Yeah, you don't need to. Like it does not do anything extra in this case. So yeah, you do this. So is it just the motion, or are there words involved?
So I'm going to hold the staff out to him, and I'm going to say something like the light of truth dispels all shadows. And there's a sort of like almost like a sort of slightly deeper sort of like echo to my voice as I say that, as I'm not pronouncing these like this like arcane phrase. There's almost like a sort of mimetic phrase I've been taught that enables me to like cast the spell. And then as I say that, these sort of like globes of light sort of spiral up the staff and sort of orbit around the end of it. So I hold it out to him and say, "You would not be trying to play us false, would you?"
And as the magic courses through you, we need to roll the tax. So this is the burden of using this particular type of magic. Is it might drain your strength, your stamina to act. So it is a fort roll, and the obstacle is the spell. So obstacle is 2.
Okay.
And you succeed. The magic that you channel does not lessen your vigor for the day at all. And you you cast magic, and as the globes swirl, you see this man's eyes widen. He drops the bundles of food into the snow, and he takes a step or two back, and like holds up his hand in a like a gesture of peace, and it's like, who are you people?
As my noble companion Gunter said, we have been sent here by the Duke to establish the cause of the unsettling rumours that have been heard coming out of Hochen over the recent weeks of the winter period. Myself and my companion aim to shine a light into the dark places of this village and see if there is any truth of the dark words that come out of this place. But you need fear us not. We are simply here to bring the truth. Those who are truthful and good need fear nothing from us.
He looks kind of taken aback, and you figure he's probably never seen magic in his life.
Peasants.
Yeah. He gathers up the bundles and like holds them and some snow in his hands and says, "Well, if you will not be turned, even with the offerings of food on your way back, then I presume I will invite you into Hawken. I am the headsman. My name is Martin Rayla. I'll put that in chat. So I'm the headsman of the village. And,
sorry.
Well, we will adjourn to my house then, if you will not be turned. Are you sure?
I'm gonna sort of like do that side slide off the horse. I let the spell sort of die on my staff so the light fades and like lower the staff back onto the side of the horse. And I'm gonna help him. Because I don't really want to scare people. So like I'm trying to get across to people that not all magic's evil. So I'm gonna like help him like pick up his bundles and stuff like that, and sort of like basically offer to like carry some of the stuff for him. Like lighten the load, so that even though he can see that we use magic, we've got a mighty knight. We're not above helping like the common person with their like everyday burdens. So like pick some of them up and offer to help. I would say, but please lead on, and I'll carry some of this stuff for him.
Yep. So he leads you.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No. So you go.
Gunter puffs up his chest in the cold winter air, kind of snore like in his kind of hat. Kind of you can see like it's like a kind of like a archway of snow. He turns towards the man. I bring justice to this town. What can you tell me has been happening recently in Hawken?
Well, what usually happens during the winter? Hard times. Mice get to whatever food we manage to store. We move the food. New mice come. It's a struggle every year. The same. We get by with. Well, we look after each other, and half the time it's just blind luck, to be honest. Out here in the country, as you move from the bridge towards the village proper, and I now direct your eyes to the map because there is some information there. Let me change my pointer color. Red should be quite good. So this is the bridge that we were on. Right after the bridge there is a constructed like from small stones, this kind of half-covered shrine to Tudon, the god of light and justice, which is the main god of the realm. And
perfectly normal. Perfectly.
Yeah, the basically the state religion
I'll stop and sort of lower my head respectfully and maybe let out maybe like internally sort of say a small prayer.
Yeah. I'll stop my horse. I won't get off it, but I'll stop it and take a moment and give my friend here a moment to hear his prayers. Prayers even.
You see there is, like on everything else, there's a hefty snowfall that's been gathering. No one has been like keeping up the shrine, so the shrine is like half buried in snow.
What condition does the town seem in as we come in?
A good question. As you turn from the shrine, noting that the shrine is kind of half buried in snow, no one has been coming around to light candles or whatever, like leave offerings or anything. And you look around, the old mill is pretty much like you remember it, Gunther, like from like way back. The old mill is still there. It's still a ruin. It still kind of works. It's like your grandpa who's like 120 years old and just will not go away, like just hanging on, which here will. But the rest of the town, aside from the long hall, the large hall of the city, well, the village rather, and the Martin Rayla's house, which is this one right here across from the long hall, and the shrine itself, every other building is either outright destroyed, like this farmhouse here on this side of the road, which you can see like the door is just laying like on its side on the ground, and the windows are all smashed out. Every other building is either just devastated or has other marks of damage, like deep gouges on the walls from who knows what, broken windows that have been repaired kind of shoddily. It doesn't look good. It looks like
This sounds like a stupid question, but this isn't. The town didn't look this bad last time I was here.
No, it did not.
Okay, so I'm gonna pull up like two houses down from the shrine, just before you get to the here, and I'm gonna hold up and turn to this guy that's followed us in.
Yeah, the headsman.
Yeah, Martin Rayler, if I am correct, if I remember. You say you've been getting by okay, but I have been in here in seasons past, and it didn't look like this. What has befallen this place? Have you been attacked?
No, it's there's a strong wind. Someone made the window shutters poorly. They fall off. That sort of thing. He points to this like destroyed house. It's like sometimes people take a little bit too much drink. Anyway, this way to my house, he says.
I give a look to my companion to infer, be on your guard.
Of course. And I'm gonna pay particularly, given my interests, I'm gonna pay particular note of the claw marks. If we move near enough to any buildings for me to examine them, I'm going to, given like my sort of my family sort of like dark secrets and like evil sorceress goings on.
I'm going to slow down my pace, and I'm going to be riding one-handed and doing that kind of cowboy thing, like where my hand is just resting on the hilt of my blade, just close enough, just in case.
Yeah,
and I'm going to.
I'm sort of like I'm poring over these marks, like trying to cast my memory back to like some of the stuff my uncle talked about, and obviously he was involved in like summoning creatures and that. Given we've heard rumours of dark sorcery, I'm thinking maybe someone summoned something and it got out of control, and I'm trying to see if I can work out like what sort of thing I think may have made these claw marks. There's any like telltale signs?
Does this place give you a vibe, Bryn?
There's definitely something untoward occurring. Let me just examine these marks to it.
Okay.
So,
and I'll shout out to the distance, hands to me.
Yeah, so it comes. It has found the best of sticks. and it carries it proudly, like you do.
Yeah, I pat him. Stay close.
Yep,
Gives me a
it
little
will do
shake.
so. So Bryn, I think let's go with perception in this case. It's
Okay.
at the top, the stat.
Yeah, no problems.
And let me consult my thing. Where is it? Oh, there we go. You don't really have the background for, like, you're not around a lot of animals and stuff. So
No,
yeah,
I was
probably perception.
I was wondering whether I could use my sort of sorcery as like a field of related knowledge, because I'm sort of going on the assumption it's something that's been summoned.
Hmm. Hmm. This welcome to Burning Wheel, by the way, everyone. So we're gonna go down the rabbit hole a little bit, or the demon hole. So Burning Wheel, there is a lot of specificity in Burning Wheel, which leads into a lot of things having their own thing in the book. And in this case, John uh, wants to figure out whether this is a summoned creature of some kind, and or like an unnatural thing that's being conjured up by dark magic, probably. And in order to do that, there is a specific skill that we we can consult. And I was going with perception as like a general. He's gonna check, look around. Sorcery is not something that you can fork into your perception in this instance. There is a skill called demonology, which if you want to use that and try and figure out, like, do I know this specific kind of claw mark that's made by some specific kind of demon, that's the thing you can pursue. You do not have the skill, it will be quite difficult for you.
No, I'll probably give that a miss. Like I say, my character. I mean, part of the reason she shied away from that side of her family was because she didn't want to delve too deeply into those dark arts, so she probably doesn't know a lot about them.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, so I'll just go with the standard perception.
Yeah, so perception, yeah. And if we, it's kind of because it's quote unquote just claw marks on a wall. So like I would have normally gone for, I think, maybe so some kind of like woodsman stuff maybe, but perception fits this one as well. So
Okay.
so
Woodsman
perception, and then we're gonna go with I think it's gonna be obstacle 3, and we'll see what happens.
I presume the consequences of failure are just like, I don't know what it is.
Yeah. I think the consequence of failure is going to be you don't really, like, you can't figure it out, / you think maybe it was made by something that it wasn't made by.
Okay, let's see how I do then.
Yeah.
Now, so as I'm sort of looking at the claw mark, say, I tend to go and try to say, my lord, I'm afraid these marks they don't look like any I've seen before. It may be that they were not caused by a creature summoned by magics, perhaps a large animal, but alas, I'm no expert in that field. And then obviously continue following the headsman.
Yep. So you check the claw marks, kind of makes you scratch your head, not much else. You go and follow the headsman to his house, presumably. Yep.
I'll
So
unmute myself. Is there any other people about?
yes, and sorry, I did not adequately highlight that. There are people milling about. They're doing their thing. There's a bunch around the long hall. They're going about their daily chores. There's a well here, which they like draw
Anyone
water
I
from.
recognize?
Well, is there someone you are on the lookout for?
Not at this stage. It's more so if I don't think I've met this gentleman before. but I'm from.
Mhm.
I'm originally from here, so there may be someone or a few people that I recognise. If this place has been taken over by bandits, for example,
Mhm.
then it's going to be a bit weird if no one here I recognise.
Mhm.
So
Hmm.
investigating that line of inquiry.
Mhm. I think on the general level, because you're not looking for anyone specific. I think, yeah, like you see some like older folks, mainly
Mhm.
the ones that you would recognize somehow, and like you get some nods from people who recognize you.
I return the look.
Yeah. Yeah, you get the odd nod, but no one really like approaches you. They watch.
This is like the prodigal son returned.
Yeah, they watch you come into the city. This is exactly the scene from a whole bunch of medieval and also fantasy films where the protagonists arrive in the city or the village, and everyone kind of like stands off to the
Yeah.
side, and it's just like panning shots of people like stopping mid washing their clothes, and then it's just like look at
What?
look at this, like, huh?
Well, we've heard obviously rumours that that there's been a famine here and they've not adequately prepared for the winter. So as these people are sort of like watching us go past, I'm just going to be trying to have a bit of a look at them because I'm expecting if there was like a famine here, you know, people would be quite thin and quite sort of drawn and obviously like malnourished. So I'm going to be sort of trying to just keep a bit of an eye on the people to see if that looks to be the case.
It does not. They don't look like the people who are like prolonged malnourishment. It doesn't look like that. That being the case, they are still peasants, but they don't look like half dead like some of the other people who are on the outskirts of the capital, for example.
So as we're sort of getting to like the headsman's house, presumably we'll be looking to like tie up Gunter's horse somewhere.
Mhm.
So as we're doing that, I'm going to sort of go as though like, I'm getting my staff out, I'm helping him tie that up, and as Gunter's like dismounting from his horse, I'm going to lean in and in a soft, low voice say to him, say, "My lord, although we've heard rumours of the famine in Hochen, although the people look as though they are hard-working peasant stock, they don't appear to be malnourished or lacking for food.
Indeed.
I would expect them to be in a far sorrier state had they weathered most of this year's harsh winter without adequate storages of food."
At least the ones that we can see. Perhaps there are others not so fortunate.
You may be right. I think your advisement to be prepared was well spoken, my lord.
There doesn't seem to be as many people around as I recall, but that could just be because of the time of year. But even so, this place gives me an ill wind.
Indeed, I'm not finished tying up his horse and saying, perhaps we can question the headsman further. Perhaps perhaps Mr. Rayler can tell us more once we're inside. At the very least, it'll allow us to get out of this snow and
Just some
get
warmth.
the chill out of our bones. Exactly.
Let's
After
proceed.
you, my lord.
Thank you. I will proceed. I will take point.
Mm-hmm. You enter into Headsman Rayla's house. There's a fire going. Rayla goes to add fire to it because he's been away outside doing stuff. So he refreshes the fire with some logs, and he puts. Actually, he goes back outside, gets a pot, and grabs it full of snow, puts it on the fire, and he's laying out some fairly rudimentary like wooden cups and a couple of plates on his little table, and he's laying out some like herbal tea that he's going to be as soon as the snow melts he's going to be making. And he gestures towards the table that he's set, like, please, my my lord and lady, do take a seat and the, the, be as you would in your own home, if that's not too bold to say.
No, of course you're. I sort of smile warmly when he sort of is reacting appropriately to us, because we are both of noble status, and it's important that, although we're being friendly with these people, it's important that they don't forget that we are of noble status.
They remember their station.
Yeah, I'm gonna sort of nod approvingly when he does that, but it's also important we're sort of magnanimous and we recognise that. So I'm going to say thank you for welcoming us into your humble home. Your hospitality is greatly appreciated, headsman.
Yes.
I second my colleagues' feelings as I'm taking off my winter coat. Do you have anything for my little friend here?
And he goes like around the corner to like a separate, like maybe his pantry, and he like there's some clanking around. He comes back out. It's I think it's like a bone
Yeah, it's
from
fine,
whatever farmyard animal, and he like shows it to you, and
that'll
then
do fine. Thank you.
gives it to the dog, who seems to forget about the best stick ever, lays it down on the floor, picks up the best bone ever, positions himself so that is towards the fire that's slowly starting to pick up again, and he's going to work on the bone. And Brayla brings out some very crusty cheese from the pantry, and a couple of pieces of real dry bread. And he's working on the tea, and says, well, the provisions are as always in the country in winter. They're meager, but we make do. I apologize for the inadequate fare. You really should have maybe turned back to head to the comforts of the capital, which are much more to your station. And he seems to like, this is for especially for Gunther, like he hasn't like directed you to like, oh, maybe you should go towards the Lord's house and stay there. He's been all about, how about you go home?
How about you get out of this town?
Yeah, I'll say I had noticed like the fact that all of his things made to be like, well, if you just left.
Is the food he's offering us now of a worse quality than what he offered us at the entrance to the village?
You didn't really see. They were bundled up because he was trying to offer them for you on the road. So he wrapped them up in small cloths. But I think he opens up one of those and like takes out like one sausage from one of them and like slices it up and puts it on a plate so you can have that and the rest.
I say we appreciate that you're willing to share your provisions with us, however humble they may be, in this difficult time. If you don't mind me asking, obviously, we appreciate your concern about us and your desire for us to resolve this quickly. However, as my lord has said, he has been charged with a task by his liege, and we cannot leave this place until the task is accomplished.
Well, he rubs his hands together and sprinkles the tea into the pot. Again, I am pleased to report, my lord and lady, Hawken as well, and we are doing fine. Winter's harsh, but we are fine.
Indeed, we had heard rumours that there was famine in the area, difficulties obtaining food. Were these rumours mistaken?
Yes, our harvest was all right. There's always a bit of difficulty with the rodents, as you do. They get into the food, same as people. But we make do. We have no problem. One might say I have a little bit too much, and he like shakes his gut and tries to break the ice a little bit.
I smile and then I say, I believe it would be, perhaps we could resolve this matter rapidly if my lord, and I gesture to Gunther, were able to speak to the lord of your village,
Lord Stravit, and you would know this like coming from the court, because Stravit is also a member of the court, but he's also been doing the hermit thing.
So, Stravit, if I recall the name correctly, would you be able to direct us to his residence? Obviously, we don't wish to inconvenience you more than we need to.
Oh, we don't. We don't go to the Lord's manor, really. At least not with good reason, and not without forewarning. And he gets kind of flustered, like like bothering the Lord is clearly to him like, I don't like that idea.
I sort of draw myself up sort of a bit sort of imperiously and say, well, my lord has been sent here from the capital specifically to address any problems that are occurring in this village. I would think that your lord would be very interested in meeting with him and resolving any problems that are occurring. And if there are no problems, obviously we can leave and let you go about your business.
I wouldn't want to bother the his lordship with anything, truly, being the loyal subject that I am, much less with needless trouble on an already troubled mind.
Well, of course, we wouldn't want. I'm sure my Lord Gunter wouldn't wish to approach the Lord of the Village without due warning and due process. Perhaps you could spare us someone to announce someone befitting my Lord's station, so that we are not simply calling on him unawares.
It's curious. I don't see any of the Lord's men in town. No guards, no militia, no.
Well, we are very humble here in Hawken. I don't mean to diminish the Lord, of course not, but what few men he has are busy in winter supporting the manor house. They hunt, they look out for bandits in the woods. I don't exactly know, having never been to the capital myself, but we are all busy when the winter comes. Everyone is needed, and there is no sparing men to stand with their weapons in the square for no discernible purpose.
I lean over towards the headsman and I sort of like gently put a hand on his forearm, and I lean in, but and say sort of like in a bit of a stage whisper, so loud enough so that Gunter can hear, and I say, I probably should not be telling you this, but my Lord Gunter has some business which the details can only be revealed to your lord in person. It is vital that we speak to him as soon as possible.
And now it sounds like we need to roll. So, is this true? Do you have a plan, Gunther and Bryn, or is this Bryn making shit up? I'm guessing it's the latter.
Yeah, this is it's me not telling the entire truth, because we do have business with the Lord, but it's not like specific business. It's just like we want to speak to the Lord to find out what's going on. But I'm trying to give him the impression that like there's some super secret important.
Bryn's not giving me the memo on this one.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to be using falsehood, which is a skill I think Bryn has.
I do indeed.
So I'm just pulling that up in the book.
And like I say, my aim in sort of the way I'm slanting the information is to like convince him that, we've been given some like super secret information that would be to the benefits of his lord to hear directly from us.
Yeah. So I'm just going to read for our edification. I'm just going to read the bit for falsehood from the book. So falsehood is barefaced lying. So there's no like qualms about this. Falsehood is when you're bullshitting people. The base obstacle for falsehood is always the will of the character you're deceiving. Add an advantage die if the lie is believable, which in this case it is. It absolutely is. Damn good or has some other kernel of known truth to it. So if any of those conditions is met, then you get an extra bonus die. increase the obstacle if it's if it is a whopper or just a bad lie. And then there's a quote: "That wasn't me. That was my twin brother." +2 obstacle, you jackass. Yeah, cool. So Martin Rayla's will is so it's an obstacle for falsehood test to get him to do what he wants, which is to like take him to the Lord.
So I presume I can add a modifier of 1.
Yeah, plus 1 die for the fact that it is absolutely like fits in. Like he doesn't need to know noble business at all.
Okay, I'm not going to spend any author on it. And you said it was difficulty 4. Okay.
4, yeah.
No, I don't think he's buying what I'm selling.
Yep. And in like just for our edification as well, because we're trying to learn this stuff. So if you had 2 dice from your skill, you get 1 because it's believable, and the obstacle is 4. So just with that, like you need 4 successes. You have 3 dice. That's not easy to do at all. And the way that you can succeed in that kind of a roll in Burning Wheel is if you roll 6s, you can try and re-roll them for more successes, which you don't have any 6s, unfortunately, in this case. But if you had, I would be urging you to like, John, like re-roll that 6, and we'll see if you can get more successes. But so he's not buying it. Sorry, we in the passion of the moment, we skipped over the part where I tell you like what's going to happen if you fail in this. Okay, so you wanted him to convince him that you have secret business that's only for the ears of Lord Stravitt, and he's not buying it. So he is going to clamp down and just state that we don't bother Lord Stravitt at this hour. It's going to be dark soon, and if you absolutely cannot be persuaded from not bothering the Lord, then I can take a visit to the manor in the morning, but we don't want to bother the Duke at this hour.
I'll look over to...
Sorry, the Lord, not the Duke.
I'll look over to Gunter and say, what do you think, my lord? Should we wait until the morning before we attempt to speak to Lord Stravitt?
We should adhere to proper etiquette.
Of course.
Friend, we should announce our arrival and then see him at a time that is most convenient for him. Tomorrow would be best. We can conduct our business forthwith, but
very
long
well
it takes.
Headsman Rayler, if you would be so kind to convey our wish to speak to Lord Stravitt in the morning. If we are welcome to rest here.
Of course. Please, you're welcome to stay if you are determined to do so. Again, I feel it is my responsibility, as the representative, meager though I may be, of this village and its people. I urge you to take some provisions and maybe proceed towards the capital, as I do not believe it is to anyone's benefit for you to stay here. But if it is entirely your prerogative to stay, if you want to, your house, your stay will be accommodated by me. I will lay out. Again, apologies for my humble house is not meant to house lords and ladies, but I will make my best attempt. And we have food. I will serve you tea, and in the morning, I shall approach the Lord, and if you still feel the need, we can get this business sorted, and hopefully we will all be on our way to do something more. And then he kind of trails off because he realizes he's starting to veer into like heavily just critiquing you guys and your actions.
I sort of smile and nod as he sort of like trails off, because obviously realised like the station of the people he's dealing with, and I say, your hospitality is greatly appreciated.
Do they have like a window in this place? Can you see outside?
Yeah, you can. Let's see. So it's this house. So there's 2 windows which are facing the long hall, which is one of the buildings that is intact.
So I'm going to stride about the room in a pretense of taking my gloves off to warm my hands by the fire, but I'm going to be glancing out the window to see if anyone is watching us, if anyone's interfering with my horse, trying to nick my equipment.
There's a bunch of people in the sort of, it's not really because it's a small village. There's not so much a square, but this junction here of paths. There's a bunch of people standing there in their winter clothes, obvious because they're outside, and they kind of have their arms crossed, and they're kind of having a palaver out in the street, and like they keep like making small motions, like pointing their thumbs towards the headsman's house, and maybe like glancing over there. Obviously, someone's talking.
Whilst Gunter's sort of like looking out of the window and he's like warming his hands, etc. So affecting an air of like unconcern, as though it's like a thought that's just occurred to him. I'm going to say, "Oh, my lord, you now we've warmed up a little. You spoke so eloquently about your youth in Hochen. Perhaps you would be so kind enough to give me a small tour of your childhood home. I would very much like to see some of the rest of the village before we turned in for the evening."
Of course, it would be my pleasure. Please prepare yourself for the winter.
Of course, and also like pull my travelling cloak back on and not pull the fur line.
So Rayla is using a wooden ladle to mix the tea, and is are you going? Do you want the provisions for the road?
That's not necessary. I was simply saying to my Lord Gunter that he spoke so eloquently about his childhood in the village of Hocken. I would love to see some of the sights that he spoke of, and he's kindly agreed to indulge me to show me some of the sights of and the buildings of the village that he remembers from his childhood. We'll be taking a small walk. We should be back before too long.
All right. I will prepare everything here. Do watch out. The darkness falls very quickly when the sun starts to set in these parts. So be careful. And do you have a torch, a lamp, something to guide you if you end up being out in the dark?
I sort of like pick up my staff, and as we're like heading towards the door, I'll say we are prepared for the darkness, but thank you for your concern.
Very good. And he kind of like, I will meet you later then, my lord and lady.
Thank you.
Yep. And he will stay behind to attend to his tea. What about the dog? Do you take the dog, Gunther? You're muted, Matthew.
I will request the dog to stay with the man.
Yeah. Well, the dog is just peachy
Happy,
with that. Because there's bones over here.
There's bone, there's warmth.
Yep. So as you exit the headsman's house, the people who were obviously having a palaver about your being here, they are, I'll get the water from the well. Excuse me, I'll see you later. And they disperse or start to.
Make polite greetings as I go past. Afternoon.
Yep. You do not get any verbal responses aside from maybe like a mumbled good day, huh? And you get a lot of long looks as you walk about.
Okay.
So I will take my friend here up the path past the well.
But as we're sort of walking, can I ask a quick system question? I have a spell called Spirit Servant, where it summons like a ghostly presence that can do small tasks for me. But it has to stay within my sight. What I'm thinking is, would it be possible for me, like, as we sort of walk away, I'm assuming that this gaggle of people are probably going to go like, oh, they're out of listening distance now, we can carry on talking about whatever. Is it possible for the Spirit Servant to like listen into what they're saying and then like repeat it back to me? It says simple functions, but it doesn't specifically mention speech.
Yeah, I'll check what it says. it's a good thought. And also, if you want to, you can try and use a skill for that. Like if you wanted to do it yourself, like I wanna walk through this village, and I want to try and overhear people as they're talking about us, obviously. So spirit servant. The servant may perform simple functions for the caster: carry, serve, open, etc. Yeah, I think it's going to be like physical actions, mainly like projection of force.
Okay, that's fine. So
Yep.
what instead of that, obviously that not being possible, what I'd like to do is I'd like to withdraw like a certain distance, but I'm going to be trying to like keep an ear out to see if like I can catch any fragments of their conversation as we walk away. So so as we get a certain distance away, we'll slow down a bit as they're like, oh yeah, we're looking at that building, but actually I'm going to keep like one of my ears facing towards them and trying to hear what they're talking about.
Let's see. There's a couple of options here. And this is a large part of Burning Wheel, by the way, like actually like zeroing in on what you're trying to roll. Because there's always, well, if you're using a sword to murder a man, that might be somewhat clearer than than some other things. But
I mean, I'm sort of going on the assumption that like perception would probably be the best.
yeah, perception, and then there's a bunch of other things we could do, but let's just, for purposes here, let's go with perception. There is a skill that could be used for this as well, but let's go with perception right now.
Okay.
And it's not huge. I think it's going to be like obstacle 2 to overhear them somewhat. And if you don't, which you don't with 2 1s, that was a shit roll.
I'm entirely blaming the winter wind and the cold.
Yeah, and that's what it is. The weather picks up, and their words are carried away by an ill wind, and it starts snowing more heavily as you make your exit from the village.
Yeah, so sort of pulling my hood down, or as we're sort of walking around with Gunter, I say, "Apologies, my lord. I'd hoped that I could catch some fragments of what those people were saying as we walked away, but with this wind getting up, I'm afraid I can't hear them."
That is all right, my friend. We will get to the bottom of this, whatever is going on here.
There is definitely something amiss in this village. The people seem very suspicious. The headsman's unwillingness to convey yourself, someone obviously of noble blood and purpose, to his lord. It all seems very odd to me.
Seem very keen for us to leave.
Indeed, and which possibly speaks ill of whatever's occurring here. And also given that we've heard all of these rumours of famine and difficulty here, and yet aside from the weather, no one appears to be in undue distress here. But there has obviously been some sort of altercation, and I like point to a couple of these scars on the building as we're walking around.
Yeah, there is something they do not wish us to know, that is for sure.
Indeed. And
whatever it is, we'll have to figure it out.
And I would hazard a guess, and it is a little more than a guess at this stage, my lord, that the focus of their concern, their activity, seems to be their lord's house. You saw the way the headsman Martin reacted when I suggested we go up there. His unwillingness and his attempts to deter us seem awfully suspicious.
It's certainly not deterring us by their actions.
Indeed.
Can I ask a quick question about the history of this place, if I might remember?
Mm-hmm.
What do I know of the lord of this place? Does he seem like a fair man? A tyrant? What do I know of him in terms of his way he treats his people?
There's a skill for this sort of thing in Burning Wheel, and it's called Wise. And there are an infinite number of Wises.
I don't think I have the skill Wise.
Yeah, no, because it's always something wise. So in this case, we could be talking about village of Hawken Wise. So you would, if you had that skill, you would know stuff about the village of Hawken.
Mm-hmm.
However, I don't think you have that skill, but we're going to have an exercise here because your question relates directly to this bit in the rules. So
Yeah.
this is a village of Hawken wise, or a nobility wise, if you were like thinking about the lord specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be entirely up to you, like which of these two skills that I've just now made up, village of Hawken wise or
Yeah.
nobility wise, or even if you wanted to, it could be Lord Stravit wise, if you wanted to like really zero in on this one dude. It's like you pick which one of these three skills you want to roll. You don't have any of them, but in
I'll
Burning
go with
Wheel,
noble, because the idea is I'm sort of basing on the information I've heard at court about him.
yeah.
Less so than what I've done when I've grown up here, because I don't know if I've interacted with him much since when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Probably as I'm now a knight.
Mm-hmm. So the skill that you are trying to do here is noble wise. You know about nobles, right? So this is how you get new skills working in Burning Wheel. You encounter a situation where you're using one of those skills that you don't have, and you're using the attribute. Let me get these terms correctly here. I'm going to open your character sheet. So you're going to use the stat that it's based on, the skill that you do not have, which in this case is perception, because all wises are based on perception. So
Okay.
the way that this works is you're going to roll your perception, but because you don't have the skill that you're trying to use, which is the noble wise skill, you're rolling your perception, and the obstacle is going to be double.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. Fair.
Your quote unquote, it's called beginner's luck, which is to say you don't know about this thing that you're trying to do, but there's a chance. So
if I succeed, does it become a new skill? Is that what
it
you're
does
saying?
not, but you will have succeeded, like with everything else. You will get your success, and there is your perception is 4. So if you use noble wise 6 times, you will get it as a skill. So
Why 6 times?
it's 10 minus the the stat that it's based
Right.
on. So you have 4 perception, 10 minus 4, 6. So if you even try to use, you don't need to succeed at all. If you try to use the skill 6 times, it will become an actual skill that you have.
Do I need to mark this down somewhere then once I've done it?
Yeah, there's a bit in the character sheet, and for our purposes here, we don't necessarily need to track this sort of thing, because we're at most we're gonna have like 3 sessions of this game, so we don't necessarily need to track that. But that's how it works in Burning Wheel. Like that's how you get new skills. You try, probably fail a lot, but then you will have learned, and then you will have the skill,
and then it will happen.
Yeah, hopefully.
Okay, so I've got to roll it. Just give it a shot.
Yeah, so you're rolling perception at double obstacle, and I will give you the obstacle as
so no modifiers.
No modifiers, no. Just the
no Arthur, whatever that is.
Yeah, Arthur is, well, John's away, so let's talk about Arthur. Arthur is this game's sort of experience points, and also like points that you can spend for benefits. There's 3 different types of Arthur. There's fate, perception, and deeds. With fate points, you can re-roll 6s in a row. So if you roll your 4 dice in perception, you get 4 6s. You can use 1 fate point and re-roll all of those and add the successes. With wait a minute, I will need to check because it's been a while. I might be. Yeah. So yeah, 1 fate open ends 6s, so you get to roll them again. With persona Arthur, persona point, you can use up to 3 of those per roll, and you can add dice. If you have persona points, you can use those to add dice to your roll, which is quite valuable indeed.
It's useful to have.
Yeah, it is very useful. Persona points are very on point, because if you can just if you can just add 3 dice to a roll, that's a big deal, because you might have 3 dice to begin with, and that's doubling your stuff.
That's
So
your chances.
yeah. And deeds point is that's the big one. That's like you need to go to Mount Doom and then toss the ring into the mountain, or walk out with the ring and be like, nah, it's my ring. Either way, you're getting a deeds point, because that was a
Right.
big ass fucking deal that you just did, and it will have consequences beyond your personal whatever you are about. And if you have a deeds point, you can use it to double your dice. So if you're walking around with 6 dice and you really want to do the thing and you have a deeds point, you can go, I have 12 dice now.
Boom.
Yeah. Or if there's a second use for a deeds point, which is you can re-roll your failed dice. So you can either double the amount of dice you have, or after you have rolled, you can re-roll
Ooh.
your failed dice.
That's an interesting twist.
Yeah. These things are rare by design in the game, because they are very powerful. That you can do some great stuff if you have a lot of dice. Anyway, so you don't need to worry about the Artha
I
edition.
won't for now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What
And I was looking for the
obstacle? Yeah.
which I think is, I might not need to look here, but I will, just to make sure and refresh up my. Oh yeah, we do have actual obstacles here. So. So you were pondering about the persona of Lord Stravitt, like what
Yeah.
kind of a man he is.
Like,
And
what's his reputation? How does he rule this place?
Yeah.
What have I heard about him?
I think that's going to be like interesting fact. So obstacle 2, so obstacle 4, because you do not have the skill.
Okay.
So you need a success with each dice.
No problem,
Yeah.
man. No problem.
Yeah. You have a 6 and you need 1 more. If you want to use a fate point, you can re-roll that 6 and maybe get a success.
Yes, I will. How do I do that?
You can just like type in a regular
Oh,
/R
okay.
1d6. And
Oh. Come on, baby. Come on. Yes.
there you go. There you go. Saved
Boy.
by the fate point. That's how you do it in Burning Wheel. So you get the thing. His reputation is that he's a hard man, which is not entirely like surprising, because this is kind of a hard country out here in the sticks. Of late, he has been very reclusive. He has entertained suspicious people, according to rumor, and suspicion tends to increase the longer you're away from court anyway. So, like, why isn't he turning up to court? There's probably a reason. Is it an acceptable reason? No one knows, because he doesn't turn up at court. People haven't really heard from him, like people who owe him money, people who he owes money, haven't really talked. So he has become an actual hermit, and the word from the village and the country in general is that he's been like a shut-in, and there's been some weird people coming about doing who knows what, maybe foreigners even.
So
Terror.
just like my father, he has reclined into himself.
Yes. Your father follows a kind of a same trajectory to Lord Stravitt. Both of them have kind of locked themselves into their manners here, as far as you know. But like Lord Stravitt is more of like an iron fist type, rather than the like more modern, like man of the people types. He doesn't brook fools, but as you see from the village, like no one's been like chained to a post and flayed in village like streets like
Would
that.
their
That doesn't
fear of
happen.
him be understandable due to his reputation? That's sort of one of the things I'm trying to work out.
Absolutely. Like fear of nobles by peasants is always justified, because the law of the land kind of gives nobles the right to do whatever they want to peasants.
Yeah, so it's not. It may not be as suspicious. They don't want us to go see. It may just be.
Yeah,
he is a difficult
probably
man.
like it's entirely justified for Rayla to be like, I don't want to go to the house of the Lord. Like I don't. Not at all. I wanna be here. I wanna do my job, and I wanna eat my food and sleep. I don't want to go to the Lord because the Lord is a hard ass. So that bit isn't like super like surprising to you. Like he's scared of the Lord, and that's kind of he's entitled to, because the Lord could literally murder him if he wanted to.
Okay, as we're sort of like walking around, obviously, Lord going to show me the various buildings.
I'm leading you up to like the way that I'm leading you up to the edge where it says Fear Bandits, which obviously Gunther can't see, and then I'm going to go left and follow the circumference of the village around,
And
back to where the old mill is.
I'm looking for any signs. I'm sort of thinking back into sort of what I've learned from my family. You know, like what sort of signs of sorcerous sort of goings on might have been, because we've heard the rumours that there's like some sort of dark magics going on here, and I know that it's very. I know that magic exacts a toll, and it leaves like signs and sort of residues. Particularly the darker magic, you can't just be like, and it like happens. You have to like, prepare. It's almost ritualistic. So I'm looking for any, based on my sort of family knowledge or my own knowledge of sorcery, anything that might give me a hint that some sort of sorcerous goings on there. And I'm doing this for the purpose of obviously trying to identify if there is any sorcery afoot here, and also I can glean any information about what kind of sorcery it might have been.
And while you're doing that, Gunther, am I correct that you're heading towards your father's estate?
Is it within the vicinity?
It's not in the village, no. And neither is the Lord Stravitt's house. Like both of them are in their own, like they have their own lands.
Not yet. The way that Gunther sees it is he has to fulfill his lordly duties first before his personal matters. So he needs to see the Lord and begin his investigation before he goes to see his father, because he wants to be showing that he is doing his job well. So it's all business at the moment.
Yeah, so you're basically touring the village grounds.
Yeah.
No.
No, this is the stream. This is the tree where I first kissed a peasant when I was a young boy. This was a field of wheat I ran through.
A peasant, surely not, my lord.
Well, I hadn't had my education at that point. I didn't know the difference.
I'm sure we've all had such youthful indiscretions, my lord.
She was a lovely lass for a peasant.
Of course, I entirely understand, my lord.
I remember it well. I hope she is well. I'll be on the lookout for anything unusual, anything that doesn't seem to belong in the village from what I recall. Animal tracks, that kind of thing,
So you walk around. The most obvious thing is you're getting a lot of suspicious looks. So that's a whole thing that's been true ever since you stepped into the village. There's the destruction of buildings, which like you don't really have a conception of like why or how, because you didn't hear about like an invading army coming this way or anything. So
yeah, I mean, part of my sort of looking around for like sorcerous sort of residue would be looking at these buildings to see if there's any like, obviously, as you know, sort of like if someone like demolishes a building like a wrecking ball, it's different. It leaves a different sort of different traces than if like a building explodes from the inside. So I'm going to be sort of paying close attention to them. But like I said, because sorcery is mainly my expertise, I'm looking at it with an eye to like, was this done by magic?
And you don't really spot, and we don't need to roll because there's nothing to find as far as that goes. There's no obvious like burnt ritual circles for summoning, which that's a thing. You don't know that magic yourself because you shunned it for personal reasons. So you don't know about the summoning arts, but you know what they look like. There's no obvious like this was a ritual site. There's a sigil painted on the wall here. There's nothing like that you would associate immediately to like blatant sorcery in that regard.
So as we're walking around, I'm going to dredge my memory, because obviously I know that my uncles to the side of the family are involved in all that, those dark magical shenanigans. I'm going to be sort of dredging my memory to think whether my uncle or anyone on his side of the family sort of like was known to be operating in this area or had any sort of dealings in this area.
Okay, and we have an opportunity to use your skill called Family Secrets Wise. So, I will pull up. Well, I think like travels.
I say it just goes on the basic wises.
Yeah, yeah, it
Description.
does. I was just thinking, because you were kind of close with your uncle, because your uncle was tutoring you in the sorcerer's arts, right?
Yeah,
Until
when
you,
I was young, until he
yeah,
sort of revealed his darker side, we were very
yeah,
close.
yeah. So I was just thinking that it's probably not like a huge stretch for you to, because you were close back then,
Hmm.
to have some sort of an idea of what he's been up to. Mm, hmm, hmm, hmm. So you were thinking, like, has he been around these parts?
Yeah,
That sort of deal?
I basically what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to think of whether I can think of any sort of times whether he mentioned Hocken or whether I know if any of him or his side of the family are all sort of a bit that way inclined.
Mm-hmm.
Whether I know them to be, cause I try and keep sort of tabs on them in case I need to like deal with some of the fallout or prevent
Mm-hmm.
some of their like darker impulses.
Yep.
Whether any of them have been sort of, I know whether any of them have been operating like recently in this area.
Yeah, I think interesting fact is probably what we're going for. So obstacle 2.
Okay, what's the consequence for fail?
Consequence for failure is hmm, you misremember stuff,
Okay,
or you remember something that is not true. Like you mix something up.
okay, no problems. Can I use either my sorcery as a field of related knowledge?
Mm, if you had Village of Hawken wise, that would be a good thing. Sorcery is very hard to like get into. It's kind of self-contained. You can't really
Okay,
fork a lot into it, and you can't really fork a lot like it to a lot of other things.
okay, that's cool.
Yep.
Okay, so what was the difficulty you said?
2.
2. Okay. Oof.
Do we have a 6? We have a 6.
I do have a 6, so yes, I will use one of my fate points.
Mm-hmm.
Knock my fate points down to 1, and I'll re-roll that.
And it's a
Yes.
success. Yeah. You remember that your father used to have your father, no, your uncle used to have someone he corresponded with here in this area, and you don't really remember the name because it wasn't significant to you at the time.
Yeah.
But there was a sorcerer here of some kind that your uncle corresponded with, like way back in the day,
Okay.
who you think was your uncle's mentor, maybe? You don't recall exactly if that was the case, but some like fellow sorcerer that your uncle looked up to used to be around these parts.
Okay, so I imagine as Gunter's sort of taking me around and he's pointing at these buildings and he's describing them, something about one of these buildings sort of sparks off a memory, and I maybe recall like my uncle sort of mentioning this building to me
Mm-hmm.
in one of his like letters he got from his like mentor or something like that. Like not that he lives there, but he just mentioned it,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds familiar. So I'm gonna, I sort of I stop and I stare at this building for a little bit, sort of putting it together in my head, and then I say, my Lord Gunter, I seem to recall from when I was still training with my uncle before he revealed himself to be the the cad that he is. I remember him. He said the man who tutored him in the esoteric arts, of which I am also privy to. His mentor. I'm sorry, I forget his name. It was many years ago. I'm sure I remember him mentioning this building in one of his letters and saying that his mentor, who was also a prodigious sorcerer if perhaps the dark persuasion dwelt somewhere near here, or at least did at that time.
That's odd. As far as I'm aware, my hometown doesn't have a history of any dark sorceresses, wizards, witches.
Well, indeed, my uncle himself, although I am estranged from him, for I do not approve of the use that he makes of his abilities, he is a potent individual in that area. So it stands to reason that the one who tutored him must therefore also be potent in that particular field.
Did you ever
Yeah.
find out what happened to him?
No, like I said, this is many years ago. I've not. As soon as I found out the depths to which my uncle would sink for greater knowledge, I removed myself from his counsel and sought nothing further to do with him. But I remember when he received a letter. It was when I was a young girl. He was quite excited about this letter, and to the point where he showed it to me. I can't remember many of the details, but you see that building over there with the red slate on the roof. I'm sure he mentioned that as being near to where his mentor lived. I don't know whether he still resides in this area, but if he
You said
does,
it was several years ago, like
indeed,
generations ago.
indeed. But the certain sorcerers are known to prize places that they are familiar with, their places of power, to use layman's terms. It may be the case that he is still in the area, and if my uncle's mentor does still dwell in this area, that may explain the rumours we have heard of certain magics taking place in this area.
Perhaps. Do you wish to investigate this building?
Yes, I would welcome a chance to have a look around, if for no other reasons, my lord, other than it may spur further memories.
The memories. How light is it right now, Johannes? How are we doing for time?
It's getting on a bit because you've been walking around. And it's snowy and icy and everything, so you can't really run around. I think you probably have like an hour, maybe two of daylight left if you want
Okay.
to stay out.
That's enough time to investigate and die probably in this village.
Mm-hmm.
Please lead on, Bryn. It appears this is your area of expertise.
Thank you. And we'll head over towards the building that I recognised, just to sort of give it a bit of a once over and investigate.
Mm-hmm. So it's a normal habitation for these kind of peasant folk. The interesting bit is it looks like no one has used it in forever. There's a lot of dust everywhere, no footprints in the dust at all. As you try if the door is open, it swings open with no effort, creaks on the hinges, and it looks like it's remained untouched for a long time.
So I sort of run like a gloved hand across and do that thing where you go like that with the dust.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's a lot.
It seems the place has been abandoned for at least several years, but I'm sort of looking around as I'm saying this. So.
Yeah, so you look around a bit. There's nothing special in that as far as the furniture goes. There's a bed. There's like a small table. There's a bit of a shelf to put stuff on. There's the cooking corner with a little stove and rather the fireplace. Just you fumble around on the shelf. There's a couple of empty ceramic containers on there. You do manage to it's almost like by accident when you lower your hand, one of your fingers catches on the edge of a sheet of paper that's been on the shelf, and it kind of flips down with a trail of dust following it. As you pick it up, you notice it's a letter from your uncle, and there's a date on it, and it's from when you were a child, when your uncle was tutoring you in the arcane arts. And it's written in his flowing cursive style, which you decipher with no real trouble, being lettered like someone else. And it's a correspondence which in which your uncle uses fairly like reverential terms, in that he's clearly looking up towards like whoever is receiving this letter. And it starts with dear Guttrung, and I'll put it in chat. Your uncle talks in vague terms about certain experiments, and thanks this Guttrung for the materials for producing quote unquote how would he term it? I think it's a case of like your uncle has received certain experimentation materials from Guttrung, and he has produced, as he thinks, your uncle, a successful result, and he is willing to continue, and he eagerly awaits the next batch from Guttrung to continue their work. And your uncle expresses that he feels really excited about the fact that they're close to succeeding in their endeavors, in their great work, both letters capitalized, great and work. And he mentions that he's been tutoring his young apprentice Bryn, with whom he shares a blood relation, and he thinks Bryn will be a great addition to their company once Bryn is of age and is able to assist in these efforts. And it's signed with his seal, signet ring. And the wax is ancient. Obviously, it cracks off the page as you read it, but the symbol was his signet.
Okay, so as I'm sort of looking at that, I'll read that out in a low voice so that Gunter can hear the contents, and then I'll say, well, my lord, I do not like the look of this at all. If my knowing the darker bent of my uncle's magics, which is what led to my estrangement with him, anything that he considers to be a great work troubles me more than I can express. Especially if the materials for such a great work were being acquired near Hochen.
I just sort of look at the paper and it's all like gobbledygook to me, isn't it? It's all like
yeah, it's familiar letters. However, you are not great at reading.
not even slightly.
Not your strong suit. But you recognize the alphabet. It's the alphabet of
You've seen these letters.
The empire. Yep.
Does it lead you to believe that this person's still around?
The letter itself is extremely old, and this place has obviously not been used for some time. However, that does not mean that this Guttrung, who I never met myself. Obviously, my estrangement occurred before this bringing me into the fold was supposed to happen, as mentioned in the letter.
Yeah.
But, we cannot rule out the possibility that he is still in the area performing his experimentations. Perhaps he simply relocated to grander surroundings.
It's a bit careless to leave something like this just lying about, but I suppose, and he sort of looks around.
Indeed,
there aren't many here who can read and understand these.
Indeed, but what would if a peasant were to stumble across this, what would they know of these veiled references of experiments and the like? I only draw my conclusions because I know of my uncle and his mannerisms and what dark avenues his researchers have led him to.
Have I ever heard of this Gottrin?
No, it
No.
doesn't. You don't have any idea who this
Any
person.
recollection, even though I'm
Nope.
from this place.
Nope.
Okay. Fair. Oh, if there's nothing else that you wish to do here, perhaps we should retire for the evening.
If that is what you wish, my love, my only slight concern, spurred on by this letter, which I'll tuck into my pocket of my robe, my only slight concern is that if there is something untoward occurring here beyond what we can currently perceive, when the headsman goes, if the Lord is involved, and I don't know if he is, but if he is involved, when the headsman goes to see him in the morning, he may forewarn him, and certainly will warn him of our approach. And if there is anything that the Lord does not wish us to see, he will have ample time to remove it and feign innocence in whatever is occurring.
There is that.
However, we can surely not call.
However,
on
it's
the,
important that we show the proper deference.
Of
or
course,
betters.
we simply can't. We simply can't call on Lord Stravid without adequate reasoning, and what we have here is supposition at best. But it does give me pause for thought, and it does make me worry that we have potentially tipped our hand when the headsman goes to see him in the morning.
What to do?
Indeed.
I don't suppose any of your arcane talents, which I do not know much of, can be assistance here.
Let me have a think. Wow. As I mentioned earlier, I do have the ability to summon a spiritual presence, but its abilities are limited. I don't think it would help us in this area. Alas, when compared to my uncle and his mentor Guttrung, I am but a novice in these affairs. In choosing to walk away from my uncle to pursue a less dark path and hopefully explore the true nature of magic, free from the taint of my uncle's evil, I sacrificed raw power in return for holding on to my freedom and my own ideas. I do not believe I have any powers that would directly benefit us at this time. There is potentially one thing we could do. I'm just going to ask you a quick system question, Your Highness. I have a spell called Phantasmagoria, where you can conjure images and illusions. So, like, you can conjure them over things to make them look like other things. What I'm thinking of at the minute is potentially using that to, like, disguise one of us as the headsman, because then let's say it's me, for instance. I could go up to the Lord and say, "Oh yes, just to let you know, your lordship, a couple of nobles have arrived. They want to show you all due deference, but they do wish to have a meeting with you." So we wouldn't be breaking protocols. We'd still be asking for a meeting, but I'd also be able to have like a quick look before he had time to like get his house in order. But obviously, I just want to check whether that'd be possible with Phantasmagoria.
It is, however, it is as you want to disguise a person, the required amount of successes seems to be 6, which is quite high.
I'll say 5 allows you to cover a crowd of people. It says 3. If you get 3 over, it creates a person, wall, or bed.
Yeah, that's if you look at Phantasmagoria, yep, and there's the ob. 3.
Right, so it's obstacle 3 plus 3,
Yep.
right?
Yeah,
Okay,
then this 3 is you succeed at like a palm-sized thing, and then as you get more, you can escalate. And 3 over creates a person, wall, or a bed, so that's what you would be aiming at, which, like, it's possible, but it's...
Yeah, because I mean, I've got a sorcery 4, so I'd need to get
Mhm.
like. But would I need to spend just 1 fate point, or would I have to spend like 2 fate points to?
Yeah, if you spend a fate point, you can reroll all 6s that you get.
Right, so basically I need to make a roll, get all successes with 2 6s, and then spend a fate point.
Also, it's great that we actually started talking about this. Sorcery is what's called an open-ended skill in Burning Wheel, and that's most of the magic stuff is open-ended by default. So sorcery already rerolls all 6s by itself just because it's magic.
Okay.
And that being the case, with a fate point, you can then turn 1 failure into a success afterwards, I think, or maybe you can reroll one failure. I will have to check that, but you can still use fate points to help with already open-ended skills.
Okay.
I'll just have to check how exactly that went.
Do I think it'd be possible? Because obviously, like disguising my character, who's a woman, as a man who's of different stature, etc., it's going to be, it's a lot more of a stretch. Do I think that if we got sort of like Gunter down and did some like mundane disguise on him as well as that, it might, I might be able to get a bonus dice on that because I don't have to like illusion him up so much.
There's also just the disguise skill itself that we can use to make people look different. Yeah, if you want to.
But I'm not sure if Gunter would go for that, to be honest, because that's a little bit deceptive, and he's not really in the. I don't really want to ask him to compromise his morals to do that.
It's certainly possible. Both things are kind of difficult. The Phantasmagoria, possible, but difficult. Using mundane disguise stuff, possible again, but neither of you are super like experienced in that, so kind of like slightly more difficult than it would be otherwise. But both things are possible with magic and mundane stuff. Mundane stuff is kind of maybe easier if you want to like fiddle with Gunther and just make him look a little bit different than he is now, because he already is kind of what you want.
Yeah. So I'll say to Gunther, I'll say, I believe it may be possible for me to use some of my abilities to effect a disguise on one of us, perhaps to disguise us as the headsman, and go and speak to, attempt to gain an audience with the Lord Stravid, but it would be a difficult undertaking. So effecting a change over a person is difficult indeed. What do you think about that, my lord?
So you wish to form a certain level of deception?
My thought is that we do not wish to break protocol by arriving unannounced. However, I do not believe there is anything in the protocol which prevents us from requesting an audience ourselves. However, if one of us were disguised as the headsman, they would perhaps be less likely to obfuscate and hide the truth from us. After all, if we do this and they do not seek to hide anything, then they have nothing to worry about.
Gunther sort of taps his finger to his kind of cheek as he thinks out in the cold. This is just leaves me feeling somewhat, no pun intended, cold. We do not know how good the Lord's guards are at spotting these kind of things. We could be creating more of a situation than we need to. For truth, we've not found anything truly amiss yet, just more of a indication.
I believe we have found some things amiss, my lord. I don't mean to contradict you, but there are a number of small things that do not add up. The gouges on the building, the presence of Guttrung in the area, the unwillingness of the headsman to convey us to his lord, which went beyond the normal peasant sphere of the noble. the relative health of the people, despite the rumours of famine. All of these things, they do not seem to fit together in the way I would expect them to, were there nothing truly amiss here. But alas, I only have small pieces of the puzzle. I cannot yet see how they fit together.
True, but the letter you mentioned, that is from some time ago. We cannot be sure that it is relevant to now. It is concerning.
Indeed, however, the thing that really concerns me about that is not the actual letter itself. In a village such as this, where dwellings are in relatively short supply, the winter is hard, I would expect a dwelling that has been abandoned for some time to be swiftly reused by the village.
There is that.
But yet, as we look around, there are numerous seemingly abandoned buildings. Whereas, if at the very least, I would expect such buildings to be used for storage, perhaps, if they have had such a bountiful harvest as they were suggesting, and if the health of the villages is so good, I would certainly expect new families, grown children, etc. There would be need to expand, and I cannot see why such a large amount of buildings, such as this one, would be left abandoned for such a period of time. I mean, it is clear no one has been here for a number of years. You only have to look at the dust to see that.
You need to convince me of that, Bryn. Which one of us would be tied as the...
It would be easy for me to affect, and it is not an actual change. It is a simple veil that would disguise you. There would be no actual change to yourself. It would be easiest, relatively speaking. It would still be difficult, but it would be easiest for me to affect the change on you, since your stature is not a million miles away from the headsman. You're of the same gender. With a little bit of a change of your clothing, it would be easier for me to affect the change on you than myself, where the physical differences are far more obvious and would require more masking. But even then, it would not be easy.
Well, I am the justice in this town.
Indeed.
Acting on my duke's authority. If I'm not there in presence, then it's almost an affront to the lord of the town if I do not go visit him myself.
Indeed, that is why I make the suggestion, rather than simply doing in deference to your authority in this matter. If you are not willing, I will attempt to. But you still wish this plan to go ahead, I can attempt to cover myself with large amounts of clothes, travelling cloaks, etc., and then simply veil my face to resemble the headsman. That may suffice, but again, it would still be taxing.
I'm going to try a different tack for a second. Johannes, did the Duke give me any kind of actual correspondence to take to the Lord? Like a letter of, writ or anything like that?
Not really. The Duke didn't say, like, go and talk to Lord Stravitt and fix this shit. He sent you here to figure out and sort out whatever is wrong with Hawken, and to figure out if these rumors are true, and if not, then like there's nothing to be done. Then you just come home. Basically, you're here to investigate. Like, is there anything wrong? If so, fix it. Stravitt wasn't mentioned, other than like he's probably there because he's not here.
Like, how much of a kerfuffle will it cause if I turn up unannounced? Do I require a roll for that, or is that just something I would know?
You're not sure. You're not sure. Because your skill set doesn't include a lot of. Do you have etiquette? You do.
I do have etiquette. That's why.
Well, that's
why
great.
I'm asking. That's why I was inquiring.
Great. Well, if you want to figure that out, we can roll your etiquette. Like if
I feel like being in Gunter's eyes, being a straight talker is more important than deception. If he can get away with breaking a few etiquette rules rather than causing a scandal, then he will.
Perhaps he's thinking back to his days of youthful indiscretions with peasant girls. he's obviously sort of broken protocol, at least in minor ways before, when no harm was done.
Yep.
Does my passing of earlier role, so I know something about the Lord of this area, grant me a bonus to know how he'd take a certain slight or...
So you're trying to figure out if you do stuff without consulting him, is it gonna piss him off?
Yeah, if I just turn up asking for an audience rather than sending word.
That's more of a nobility wise than, or Lord Stravit wise than etiquette. Like etiquette, you could have for one obstacle one is proper etiquette for a minor lord. If you want to make that roll and you succeed, you will know like what you should do in this situation.
Okay, right, then,
But
yeah.
if you're interested in like how is he going to react to you doing whatever
Yeah.
you're going to do, that's more of a him question than etiquette.
I will default to what you should do first.
Okay, so yeah, you can roll your etiquette obstacle one and see if you're familiar with this this kind of deal, like presentation with minor nobles.
Yes, I am.
2 1s and a 4. Yeah, you know how the protocol goes for you to actually like present yourself to Lord Stravit and how to do the song and dance of you being here as the Duke's agent and him being the ruler in this land. You know how to work all that out.
So would I announce my arrival before requesting an audience?
Not necessary, I don't think.
Right.
You could go up and be like, hello, I am here, I am such and such, I'm here on the Duke's business, and this is because he's a minor lord. He's a country lord, so like he's due deference, but
yeah,
like you don't need to send a letter beforehand necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
I turn to Bryn. From lessons with my father, you can skirt some of the rules. Obviously, every lord is due their deference and proper respect.
Oh, of course.
But since I'm acting on the Duke's orders, and I'm effectively acting with the Duke's will to a certain extent, that affords me a certain liberty in this instance. Perhaps we should play it straight for now. I suggest we go ourselves without the villager, Mr. Rayler, and just arrive and see what we can find.
You believe we should head directly to the Lord's home now and seek an audience?
In the morning, yes.
Will the headsman not be heading out early in the morning to request such an audience anyway? Well, I suppose we could. There is nothing to stop us leaving before him.
And you could also just lie to him that you're going home. He would probably not bother with the Lord because he seemed scared.
Yeah.
You could tell him to sit here and you're going to the Lord. There's like you could try and convince him to do all kinds of things.
It doesn't seem easy with me lying to him.
Do you wish me to, rather than conveying a falsehood to the headsman, do you wish me to tell Mr. Rayler that we simply no longer require him to request an audience with the Lord?
I think that would be good.
For that is not a falsehood, and unless he seeks deeper reasoning, we do not need to elaborate on the subject.
Yeah. After all, he is not guilty of any crime yet, just like anyone in this village. But at the same time, perhaps we should proceed cautiously with the people we do trust.
Very well, and so perhaps if we head back to Headsman Rayler's abode now, when we arrive there, I would tell him that we no longer require him to request an audience, and that we will be returning home. Obviously, I do not need to mention exactly when we will be returning home, so therefore it is still not a falsehood, for we will be returning home once this is resolved.
Yep, he is. You don't need to roll because you're telling him what he wanted to hear anyway. So he's overjoyed at this, and he like makes sure that you're not going outside in the dark because it's like he points it out, and you will have noticed this as well, that there's a storm on the horizon. There's going to be a lot of snow, so you're best staying inside with him. He's going to feed you. He's going to set you down for a good night's rest, and he's going to give you some provisions for the morning when you
Now,
go.
As a quick question, when he's sort of saying, obviously what he's saying, "Oh, don't go out, there's going to be a storm," makes
Mhm.
perfect sense.
Hmm.
However, does he seem like a little bit more concerned? Like he's saying like, "Oh, don't go out after dark." Does he seem more scared of? I'm trying to work out whether he seems more scared of the dark than of the actual storm. Like whether the storm's just an excuse to keep us in.
That is brilliant, and let me work this out. So, what are we rolling here to figure him out? This is one of the things that I've blanked on a little bit with Burning Wheel, like getting a bead on someone else's like intentions and stuff. So I'm gonna have to consult the ye old list of skills.
No worries.
Yeah.
Because I've got to admit, I'm sort of, to explain my motivations, I'm half thinking at the minute that what's happening is that something's coming at night and like attacking the village or like stalking the streets, and potentially leaving those marks on the buildings, and that's why like all the villagers are sort of like, sort of taking to their homes maybe a bit more than they might do normally when it's dark, because they're like, oh, they sort of barricade themselves in the buildings after dark.
Of which there are few. I mean, buildings that you could actually barricade yourself into.
Indeed, and if I sort of let my mind wander down the sort of darker trains of thoughts, one reason why there may not be a famine in this area is if some people have already got snatched by whatever it is, and therefore there's less people in the village, the provisions they've got will go a lot
Last
further.
longer.
Yeah.
Yep. That is certainly a consideration. Let me see. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I think it's going to be straight up what is it called?
Perception.
Perception. Yeah. Perception is one of those things that a lot of things default in Burning Wheel to perception. It's one of the, like, if you wanted to think like that, it's one of the power stats, so to speak. In this case, yeah, we'll go with that. So
okay, given my skill in sort of conveying falsehoods myself, would I gain any benefit from that? Because I sort of know like how to weave a lie into the truth myself, and I think that's what he's doing. He's sort of like, oh yeah, it's the storm, don't go outside because of the storm, but actually just like he's trying to cover the falsehood with the truth.
And you're thinking exactly like you should with Burning Wheel. However, and there's a lot of howevers in Burning Wheel, the distinction here is you're rolling with a stat.
Okay.
And falsehood is a skill. Now, stats are not something you can fork into.
Okay.
Skills, and for our edification, again, fork is an abbreviation of field of related knowledge, which is to say, if you know how to make boats, you will also benefit from knowing about the specific kind of wood. And if you know about wood stuff like trees and planks and that sort of thing, if you're a carpenter as well as a boatwright, you will gain benefits from the cross-pollination that those two things have, which is what John is here trying to do. However, the thing here is that perception is a stat, and that cannot be helped with skills. However, we can try and do another thing if Gunther is up to it. So Gunther, if you are also interested in trying to get a bead on the headsman here, and if you want to do that bit where like the headsman is at the window being like, see, like there's a dark cloud right over there and it's coming our way and it's going to be snow up to here, so we're going to stay inside. I'll put the logs on and we'll have a nice cozy night, and I'll pack you with sausages and bread when you leave in the morning. If Gunther wants to be with Bryn, kind of like leaning up against each other, like trying to get a bead on the headsman, you can help Bryn as she's making this roll.
Naturally, I will help if I can.
Yeah. So you're helping a stat, which means you cannot help with the skill that you have, but you can help with the stat itself because you have perception. So what this means is you will have one of your dice, you will hand it over to Bryn, and Bryn has an extra die because you're helping.
Yeah.
The cost of all of this is you are also bound by the consequences of this thing.
Naturally.
Yeah. So
I'm all in. I'm all in.
So Bryn gets an extra die for this roll, and you are both bound by the results and consequences of this. So if you fail, you will find the headsman, like you will have concluded that the headsman is entirely trustworthy. Like you will discard your like suspicions regarding the headsman as far as his motives. Like you will have an image of him as like he's just a dude trying to do his best here in the village.
Okay.
Yep.
Right,
So if you mess up now, it's both our heads.
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
it's not both of our heads, but both of our heads trust the headsman.
Yeah, both of you will be like, yeah, he seems on the up and up because he's
Even if he's not.
yeah,
Yeah.
like yeah, but you won't know, but that's what you will believe.
So presumably, if we sort of like go, actually, yeah, he sounds like he's on the level, we might be like, oh, do you know what? Just let him organise a meeting for us. It's fine.
Yeah, that's entirely a thing, but you don't have to do that. If that's what you want to do afterwards, if you fail, that's entirely up to you, and that's acceptable and fitting. However, the main point or main thrust of the failure is that you don't feel like he's lying to you or being like shady in any way. He's just pointing out that there's going to be a storm. I'm going to take care of you. We're going to be cool, and everything's all right in the world.
Okay, it sounds good to me. What's the obstacle?
The obstacle is let's see. I think it's going to be 2.
Okay.
2 for Rayla.
Let's see how we go then.
Boom. There we go. He is shifty. You were right in that he seems weird. That's blatant, I think. He seems to be strange about all this stuff. However, you don't feel like he's entirely like, don't go outside, you will be eaten by the monster in the woods. But he's definitely like, it's going to be safer inside than outside. And that's only partially because of the storm. But he's not like, don't go outside, there's the Wendigo that's going to eat you. But he's definitely like, he's hiding something. But it's not like he's sweating bullets being like, oh shit, my house is going to be next.
Okay, well, what I'd like to do is, because obviously like, myself and Gunter have realised that there's a bit more going on than he's letting on. What I'd like to do is, just in case like we do get attacked during the evening or something like that, I'm going to say to Alina and say, my Lord Gunter, could you occupy the headsman, and I gesture at like the side of the building, like away from where the front door is. Could you like occupy him over there for a few moments? I have a certain protective charm that would secure our safety here, but I don't wish to tip the headsman off to my use of it. Would you be happy to occupy him and perhaps asking him some stories about the village or engaging him in conversation?
I can do so. Don't worry.
Thank you. And basically what I want to do is, when Gunther's sort of like taking the headsman to one side and he's chatting to him, so like I'm going to go over and sort of like make as though I'm sort of like just making sure the door's shut, and use my in a very low muttered voice, use my binding charm to like bind the door to the frame.
Yep.
Sort of like hold it secure, so if anyone tries busting in during the night, they'll literally have to like smash the door down to get in.
Yeah, the spell is gonna be up against them. So binding. Yeah, so basically what you're doing is you're binding the wood of the door to the frame of the door.
Yeah.
Like you're making
I
them.
should point out this place has windows as well.
Yeah, but to be honest, if someone like crawls, the way I'm thinking about it is, if someone like comes in through the window, it's going to be a bit inconvenient for them, and they're going to have to wriggle through a window, and we'll have time to deal with them. Whereas if something just like throws the door open and like comes in, we might be getting out of bed and like scrambling for our stuff. Whereas with this charm, they'll be like, oh, I can't get through the door.
Mhm.
They'll have to smash the door down, and we can get up and have grabbed like our stuff by the time we come in.
Yep. So binding is obstacle 2.
Yeah.
So you can choose, like if you wanted to do other stuff, you can choose items, presumably of wood, because like the door is wood.
Yeah.
So you're sticking wooden things together. So you're sticking the door to the frame and the wall, basically.
Yeah.
And you can choose additional items equal to your will exponent, -1, because that's the door.
Yeah. Okay. So
If you want to do other stuff, I don't know if you do, but the option is there. If you want to put like a stool against the door.
I'm pretty happy with just doing the door at the minute. 'Cause I think if I suddenly start like piling his like wooden goods against the door, he might sort of like raise an eyebrow at it. So I'm just going to go with the door at the moment. So that's a sorcery roll. Okay.
Sorry, yeah, I was muted. Yeah, sorcery obstacle 2.
Okay. Success. And can I re-roll the 6 that I got? Because it's open-ended. See if I get like an extra success.
Oh, wait a bit. On the sheet. Yeah, sorry. I did not put in the check mark to the box where it would automatically do that for you in the roll macro, and that's
Okay.
the box after the 4.
Oh yeah, I see it. I've ticked
Yeah.
it.
So you can just tick that, and it will do that in the future. But you can roll it now.
Okay, lovely. Okay, so no additional success.
Yep. But yeah, so you bind the. Wait a minute. Do you go outside to do this, or are you inside?
No, I'm inside, and basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to be like running my hands along. You know, like how you check like the gap of a door when you like put like a draft excluder or something. I'm going to be doing like that, and I might even like take off my cloak and like put it against the bottom of the door, not binding the cloak to it, but just make it look so I'm putting the cloak there to like keep out the draft, because you know he said big storm on the way. Then as I'm doing it, I'm going to be like, oh, you know, yeah, this looks alright, should be safe against the storm. And under my breath, I'm going to whisper the incantation, like say, join the door to the actual like frame.
Yep. Okay, you do that, and Gunther, what do you do to distract the headsman as this vile sorcery is being done in his house?
I get his attention by obviously we share some food. Well, I ask him about my father. I ask him what's news about. I don't make it blandly obvious it's my father. I ask about the house. You know, the local noble. Is he well? Have you seen him? What report have you heard?
So if you're just talking in general, that would be, I think we're rolling will here. Your will stat.
My will stat.
Yep, that's the sort of like social interaction where everything social is rooted from.
Yeah, I'm not asking him at the moment. Not a directed question. Like I'm not trying to. I'm not like sort of interrogating him. I'm just trying to get general information about like.
Yeah, I understood that your intent is not to get information; it's to distract him, right? Yeah. So yeah, let's just roll with base will.
Base will. Okay.
And,
what's the?
What's the? Well, magic isn't subtle, so I think it's going to be obstacle 3 because he's let me check if he's observant in general. This might be an opposed roll, actually. Yeah, let's make it an opposed roll. We haven't had one of those. So you roll your will, I'll roll his perception, and we'll see which one gets
But
more.
how do I determine the obstacle for?
It's just one. Like it
Just
doesn't. It's as many successes as you can get is the
Okay.
optimal thing. Okay, so you get 3,
Threat.
and I will roll for the headsman. Heads will roll. Don't I have? Oh, well, I did not make myself an NPC sheet. Okay. There we go.
We live and learn.
Yep. Okay, so he has 4, was it? Perception? Yeah, 4 perception. Yep. Okay. There we go. Well,
It's a tie.
okay. Interesting. So in Burning Wheel, we've rolled a tie now. So we cannot resolve this with you trying to distract him with your questions about local trivia. So we need to move the conflict to a different stat. So what do you do when you realize you cannot keep his attention with your, oh, is there, like, what's the fur trade like these years? Do you still grow barley here?
Ugh.
You cannot keep him with that. What do
So
you do next?
when you went to the pantry earlier,
Mm-hmm.
did you have to go out did you have to go out the front door? Did you have
No,
to?
he went like around the corner. It's like just a different small room away from the fireplace.
Okay. Then I'll ask him again kindly if he would get something for my little dog to eat for the evening, like a little bit of meat or like like a bit of water, that kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. For him to leave the actual scene of the situation.
Okay, yep, you're asking him to do a thing, so please roll persuasion.
Persuasion, is that a
You're trying to
skill?
persuade him to do this thing. So,
Is that a skill?
yes. Do you have it?
Don't have the skill,
Great. So you will.
but I do have etiquette. Now he is obviously bound by etiquette similar to me to
Nah. It doesn't. This is like I said before. Specificity is a big deal.
It was a valiant attempt, though.
Yep, that was great. That was great. So you're going to be rolling your will, and the obstacle is going to be double because you do not have the persuasion skill.
Okay.
And the obstacle is his will. So you're trying to persuade Hesman Rayla, who has 4 will. So your obstacle is 8.
I can't make that. That's not possible, right?
That is entirely possible that with 4 dice, or however many you have, you might not get 8 successes.
So how do I
You press the roll button next to your will, and you put in obstacle 8.
I don't think it's actually letting me roll. Oh, there it is. So obstacle 8.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm only 7 off.
Yep. Unfortunately, you don't have 6s to reroll. Yeah, so you do not distract him. We did not discuss the failure condition, but that's the implied thing. Like, you cannot keep his attention. So he will be coming over to Bryn. Like, what is this? What is this? Excuse me?
I'll point to the the cloak that's part of the reason I was laying it out at the bottom in case like Gunter couldn't distract him because I know he's not a big one for deceit. So,
Yeah, no,
I'll point to the cloak that I've laid down and I'll say, I'm terribly sorry. We travelled a long distance to reach the village of Hochen, and my delicate constitution has suffered somewhat. I was simply trying to make sure that there weren't any cold drafts coming in under the door. that might cause me to further deteriorate as we slept.
Okay, please roll your falsehood then. The obstacle is 4, because that is Rayla's will. That.
Okay. Oh.
Oof. So, sorry again. And this happens a lot with Burning Wheel, that I forget and everyone else forgets to talk about the failure, but it's not super serious. But it's sort of the part of the procedure that you talk about the failure before the roll. But this is the reality. I at least get so caught up in the moment, in the momentum, that I often forget to talk about the failure. But so Rayla is not buying it, and he says, "I'll have no more of that kind of talk, my lady. With all due with all due respect, there was a fella back in my dad's day used to go off spouting something like that, charms and whatever, and he like swallows some choice words." And he's like giving you a lecture about, don't do whatever charms and demonology you're about. Like, don't do that here.
I'll look very crestfallen, and I take my robe away from the bottom of the door and I put it back on, and I'll say, my deepest apologies. I promise you that I will cast no further charms. It is a simple charm designed to protect the threshold of your building from dangers. Surely you would not begrudge me attempting to see to the safety of my lord, and of course to yourself, who is offering us hospitality. It is a simple charm to prevent anyone from gaining untoward entry to your building. You may test the charm if you wish. It will hold your door secure against.
He recoils from the door as you say this. It's like, I don't want anything to do with that. Security is fine. However, there's a price to everything, is what my dad, my pa said. And we chased that previous fella who was doing this sort of thing out, and my pa was leading the mob, and he's clearly going for, like, my pa did this before and I learned from him, I'm ready to do it as well. But he like muddles his way into not saying that he's gonna get the pitchfork and make an example of you if you keep this up. He's sort of like, he starts muttering, and he goes to like stir the pot on the fire. And he's making like the evil eye protection thing.
But since obviously I'm driven to try and prove that magic is not the evil thing people believe it to be, I'll say it. I'll sort of move over and stand next to him, and I'll say, "Please, I understand you've had difficult experiences before, and I dare say your father was right to have driven out a user of charms and sorceries that may have been foul or a detriment to your village. Did your father say anything further about the man that you drove out?"
Well, what is there to say about these black forsaken souls that
You see,
are...
this is a common misunderstanding. Magic and charms by themselves are not evil, nor are they good. It is evil or good dwells within the hearts of men, rather than in the raw force of magic. It is like if you imagine magic as a sword. A sword could be used by a cutthroat to do great evil, to pillage, to destroy. However, a sword, and I sort of like glance sideways at Gunter when I say this, a sword in the hands of a righteous man, a noble man, a man pure of heart, can be used to defend the weak, can be used to make a stand. Magic is no different. It can be used for evil purposes, but if the heart of the person who uses it is pure and their intent is good, there is nothing inherently evil in magic. Nothing you must fear, my friend. But I apologise for not being more forthright to you.
So this sounds like a persuasion roll. You're trying to convince him about this thing.
I'm sure John has persuasion.
Yeah, you'd like that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, this is the thing. Bryn is good at lying.
Yeah, I'm not so good when it comes to telling the truth.
Yep. It's the harsh world of being a sorcerer in this kind of place where the reception is always like, ugh.
Indeed.
Okay, so same deal. Your will against his because you don't have persuasion, so your will against his double will, so 8.
Okay, so obstacle 8.
I'm gonna get kicked out.
Not even vaguely near.
Ooh, 2 6s though.
Oh, I could almost make it to halfway.
It's yep.
No, I'll leave it. I can see after a bit that I'm not going to win him over.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, he's too steeped in his like local superstitions.
Yep. Yeah, that is true.
But I still apologise to him.
Yep. He says, I have promised you a roof and provisions, and I'm not one to break my word. There will be no more words between me and you. And he points at Bryn and Günther both, essentially saying, you can stay here, you can eat. Come morning, you will go and we will never talk again.
So I sort of nod. I don't speak to him, but I turn away, and Gunter can see like a slightly like sad, pained expression on my face, as it's another person who's been sort of like, it's another victory for like ignorance and fear.
Yeah.
But I don't want the peasant guy to see that, so I turn away. But Gunter catches sight of my sorrowful expression, and then I just sit down quietly, a little bit crestfallen.
And
so is it just me and me and the guy just awkwardly looking at each other?
Mm-hmm.
And for the next few minutes.
Yep. The headsman serves you the meager meal. If you want more, like in the evening, he has some more food for you. He has warm drink, aplenty. He can make tea, a lot of it.
I'll take some tea.
Yep.
Tea, of course.
Yeah, it's great for the winter night facing you.
Obviously, trying to adhere to his wishes. Like when he offers me, if he offers food or whatever, I'll just like nod or shake my head. He said he didn't want any words to pass between us, so I will like deliberately not speak to him because I don't want to go against his wishes because he's given us hospitality.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So he does serve both of you with warm drink and food if you want it for the night.
We've managed to piss off one person in the village. Let's see how we do in the morning.
Yeah, you weren't so great with the like before you did anything. The others outside were like, bad news from city folk, I bet. Always a bad deal.
Whoops.
Yep. Okay, so do you want to stay here for the night? Yep, cool. So you have a place to rest, and I will ask you to, let me see if there's a thing here. Otherwise, we can just jump forward to the next bit. And for anyone following along, like I said before, we are playing the sort of like pre-prepared scenario, Trouble in Hawken. However, I'm not going straight by whatever material has been prepared for us. because that's the nature of these games, and they do kind of acknowledge it in the material that there's probably going to be like no way to predict like how things are going to go. So I'm just checking if there's something here I should take into account before moving on. Usually I wouldn't do this if I was just running my own thing, but I want to see if there's some cool stuff in here. Okay. All right. So describe to me what you do for the rest of the evening, or if you just go to sleep, then that's also possible.
Okay. Again, a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's about the sort of phantom servant spell.
Mm-hmm.
The spirit servant. How long does that last for?
I will check.
It says sustained.
If it's sustained, then we will consult with that.
Because what I'm wondering is, like, could I cast it, go to sleep, and like give it instructions, like, if anything odd happens, just like give me a nudge to like wake me up.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay. Duration. Okay. Sustained spells. A sorcerer is rigorously trained in the art of concentration. He's able to slip into a trance-like meditation almost instantly, and then, while maintaining this trance, come forward in his mind and interact normally with his surroundings. That's the sustaining of spells. Okay. To sustain a spell, once it's cast, a player sets aside one will die to represent the spell. This die is placed on top of the character sheet, blah, blah, blah. As long as the sorcerer is sustaining that spell, the will die may not be used for any other will interaction. You can't use your last will die because you would knock yourself out.
Yeah. Well, I suppose if like you say you can't do it when you're knocked out, that sort of answers the question.
Yeah, I guess. I found an explicit list though. So while sustaining a spell, a sorcerer may fight, jump, play, talk, argue, read, study, think, and cast spells. So while sustaining a spell, a sorcerer may not panic, be hurt, fall down hard, fail attacks test, completely lose. There's a specific spell that they talk about here. Go to sleep or otherwise lose consciousness. So yeah.
Okay, yep. That's fine. Yeah. So obviously, I'm not going to do that. Then I'm just going to.
Your staff could sustain a light spell if you wanted to put it into the staff, though.
Yeah, but obviously a light's not particularly useful for.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, what I'm probably going to try and do is because I presume we're sleeping in like the main room.
Yeah, he doesn't have like a big separate thing. So
what I'm going to do is I'm going to sleep with my staff sort of next to me, but I'm going to put it so like the end of the staff is like against the door. So like if the door knocks, the staff will like knock into me.
Yep.
But obviously I can still sort of like reach out and grab it if I need to.
All right. So Bryn is sitting down for the night. What about Gunther? Gunther is being awfully quiet, perhaps because of some eldritch sorcery.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I think you're muted.
I wasn't even pontificating myself there. I was like, Gunther, he will check his weapons, make sure they are well appointed, and the frost hasn't got to them. Check his armor, because obviously he should always go into a situation fully ready for it, just in case. Obviously, he'll make sure his dog's okay. Little hands. Customary that is usually the owner of the establishment would give up his room for a lord or noble staying. But considering the man's current feelings towards us, I think I'll elect to stay in the same room with my companion here, just in case anything nefarious happens. So I'll have my tea. If I could write, I would have wrote like in a journal or something, but you can't. So I'll just collect my thoughts and settle down for the night.
Yep. Coolio. Alrighty then. So I will reference my stuff here.
Did Bryn complete the spell?
Yes. The door is bound with the binding spell.
Right. So
to
I'll
the
look out the
frame.
window and just check my horse is okay.
Yeah. The horse is
Okay.
just hanging outside. It's munching on like a bunch of hay that someone brought over.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
So I've got a crossbow apparently.
Yes. And
Will that-
a whole bunch of violence implements besides.
Will that be on my horse at the moment?
It's wherever you left it. If you wanted to bring it inside, you could.
I think I will have done. Yeah, before we settle down.
Mm-hmm.
And just make sure that it's ready to go in case we have any trouble. I don't suspect any, but this village is not how I remember it. It's giving me the heebie-jeebies. Is there the god you mentioned earlier, the shrine? Is that who you normally pray to for protection?
Yeah. Tudom is basically the state religion, and Tudom is all about light and justice and kind of all the good things in society as far as people think. So he's the one that people usually turn to in whatever their prayers might be.
Mm-hmm. I'll give him a little prayer, just just in case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the best attitude for religion. I'll pray just in case.
Well, I'm a noble. My authority should protect me.
Yeah, I mean, you have your blood, and that's a whole lot more
That's all
than
I
other
need.
people have. Yep.
And I'll fall asleep listening to the howling of the wind.
However, they would be horrible last words. But I'm a noble.
Yeah, I was like,
but I'm a bloop.
yeah, so I'm a noble. How dare you? Beat. All right. Let's see. Okay. Would you please give me?
I don't like the idea. Make me roll. What's going on?
Yeah, I wonder what is going on. We will see if we can find out. So you should roll your observation skill, which you do not have. So you're rolling your perception stat instead. And these people who you are trying to observe are rolling their stealthy rather, which they do not have. So they're rolling their speed instead. So the match is kind of even because neither of you know what you're trying to do. You don't have the required skill, so you're both using your stats. However, you guys are sleeping, so you have like effectively a -1 to your result.
Okay.
Dude, why? Right.
Yeah, because you're sleeping. So roll your perception, and they will roll their speed in opposition of you. However, you suffer a +1 obstacle, which in this means, don't modify your roll in any way. They will get a +1 to their result as a result of you being asleep. Yeah.
So what's the base obstacle for this?
It's just 1. We just need to know how well you roll.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, obviously, I'm just like, I carry arm around all day. I get tired.
Okay, and I'm rolling speed, which for these people is.
Well, I'm glad I put my crossbow in the house now.
Okay, here we go, I think. Oof. And they get +1 on top. So they, what is that? Bryn?
2 6s.
Yeah, 2 6s as well. So they get 4 because you are asleep. If you were not asleep, they would be tying with Bryn. However, you are asleep.
What about my dog?
That's a very good question. Let's roll for Hans.
Come on.
Yeah, come on, Hans. I will see if I can find.
He's a loyal, noble steed.
Come on, Hans, get that MVP.
Yeah. Let's see if I can quickly
Does he
find
get a
you.
bonus for being a dog? Because dogs bark at anything.
You go, but
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
what's that, Hans? Timmy's down the old well, and there's a murderous mob coming for us.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I do have a thing which has animal stats. However, I'm not gonna go fetch it because it's unfortunately I left it in the shelf over there. So we're just gonna
I say, is it in
eyeball
the
it.
codex?
It's.
'Cause
I'll take a quick look.
I say I've got the codex here, but
Yeah, I'll take a quick look. This might not have what I need. We'll see if it has anything like it. Because there's an older edition of Burning Wheel, there's a thing for basically.
He just for record, he has the good boy skill.
Yeah.
He's a good dog.
And also the more relevant, like keen smell.
Himself, yeah.
I couldn't find anything in the codex quickly, so we're just gonna eyeball it, and we're gonna just say he has, because he is kind of like a working dog, and
Probably be a hunting dog, wouldn't he?
yeah. So I think he's gonna have a tracking skill of 3, because he's not a very old dog, but he's a professional dog at what he does. So he has 3, which is like a respectable amount of tracking and observation. And he has keen smell as a trait because he's a doge. And that is gonna do a thing which I just realized I need to check what that does exactly. But that's a thing found in the book. So you can. Well, I can just roll it for him.
Maybe it gives you an automatic success.
It does not. There's no.
I'm just, you know.
Yeah,
just
I know. You're fishing, and that's good. That's partially what Burning Wheel is about, like trying to get, like, harness what you have to surmount your obstacles.
I mean, if there's stepping one dry twig out there, he's up.
Okay. I might have misremembered, but there's a thing called keen sight, which I'm just gonna go with. So. So it's just it's a +1 die to the roll. So Hans, I'm gonna roll for Hans, and Hans is gonna have 4 dice to roll in this. He's a good boy.
He's a good dog.
Observation 3, and I'm gonna add 1 bonus. Oh, there we go. Modifier is 1. Artha, none, and then the obstacle to beat in this case. Well, I'll just roll. Oof! Hans is asleep. Hans is having.
he's tied himself out.
No, yeah, one
He's
job.
tied himself out eating that bone earlier,
bless him.
Yeah, Hans ate the bone, and he's by the fire. He's living his best life. Yeah,
he won't be in 5 minutes when all shit kicks off.
So he's checked out. He's in Dog City in his head. So he's by the fire, kind of twitching and doing the. Woof, woof.
Oh man.
And he's having a good time.
I thought I had this, John. I thought I had this.
It was a good call.
Sorry, man, we're not lost completely yet. There's still time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. So I will get back to.
So we are asleep right now.
Yes, you are asleep as
Stuff's
this
occurring
thing happens.
outside.
Yes, stuff is occurring outside. You do not know. Hans, nah, he's off chasing whatever he's chasing in his dreams. Let's see.
So what happens if they try the door? Does it just not move, or does it give off a sound? Or
The thing here is, John circumvented the thing that was gonna happen with the binding. So good on you, John. Nice. So I'm gonna roll for the people to see if they can figure out the door situation without waking you guys up. Let's see. there's gonna be at least like one carpenter type dude outside, so he's probably gonna be the one when they like try the door and it's stuck and it doesn't even move. They're probably gonna push the carpenter forward, and the carpenter is trying to figure out if he can just like prise off the frame, because the door seems to be stuck to the frame.
On the bright side, let's hope he can't like do that noiselessly.
Yeah, that's what he's trying to do here. Let's see. Okay, he's gonna get help from his buddies, so he's gonna get an extra die on that. So he's gonna roll with 1 modifier and 3 carpentry, because he's a village carpenter. Like, he's not amazing at it, but he knows his stuff. Well, we know that you guys won't hear unless the situation changes. So I will refer to the stealthy skill, and I'm gonna pick an obstacle to match our situation here to see if he can do this silently enough, not to change the situation so that you will be possibly hearing them. Stealthy. Oh yeah, because it's versus. Okay, so I'll use the best that you guys had, which is 3. Oof. So what happens is a halfway deal between them and you guys. So you failed. You do not awaken to their normal stuff. However, the door was locked with a binding spell, and the carpenter, while he figures out how to prise the frame off enough to like just make the door go away, he cannot do it silently enough to stop you guys from waking up. However, the door is already off by the time you do awake, so they're not in yet, but they're outside, and the door is like, they're just like taking the door out, and the cold winter air blasts in, wakes you guys up. Hans as well. He's doing a stretch by the fire, and you see against the torchlight, because there's torchlight outside, there are dark silhouettes outside, prizing the door away with the frame.
Okay, well, as per my instinct, I believe
Mhm.
danger's looming. So
Yes.
I'm gonna cast Touch Not the Divine, the Sublime Flesh on myself.
Yep. So Bryn wakes up and begins muttering the incantation for Touch Not Sublime Flesh.
And as I'm doing that with my other hand, so one hand on my chest, my other hand I like just grab my staff and not pull it close to me.
So it's an obstacle 3.
Okay, let's do this thing. Let's scroll down. There we go. So no modifiers. Base obstacle 3. Ugh.
There's 1 6 if you want to try a reroll.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for it. So I use my last fate point and I'll give it a roll. Let's see what happens. No, it's not.
Oh yeah, sorry. This was the thing I was meant to check before. Sorry, because it doesn't work exactly the same for a skill such as sorcery, which is already open-ended. So I need to go and check that. So Gunther, what are you doing?
Am I awake now?
Yes, the wind is blasting in your face, and there's also some snow that's coming in.
I always make sure I am in full harness for battle, so my accoutrements are nearby, and I shall quickly slip into my armor.
That will not be happening. A plate mail such as yours will not be happening if you laid it out. If you slept in it, that's a different deal, and we can talk about that. That's not a good deal.
Yeah, so but you are not going to have a restful night's sleep if you've slept in it.
No, I wouldn't have slept in it, no.
Yeah.
But I would have had it nearby ready to put on.
Yeah, for sure. Like, if we're talking like a helmet, that's fine.
Yeah, you could maybe slap a breastplate on quickly, but you wouldn't get the whole thing on quickly.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll try and put on enough to, like, head, chest. You know.
Yep. So you have your helmet on, like half cocked, and you're like pulling on the straps of your breastplate, which you just like rolled into.
But I have my crossbow, which means I can engage in some ranged devilry.
Oh, devilry.
Devilry.
Rayla was right. Both of you guys are the devil.
Yeah, there's nothing that says devilry like rolling away from the door and going, oh, fuck.
Yeah. We're not trapped in here with you. You're trapped in here with us.
See what I did to that door. Imagine what I'm going to do to you.
I'll shout, hands to me. Wake up, you daft bastard.
I love the way in like the space of 5 seconds with one failed roll, we've got like, oh, hands MVP. Come on, you that bastard, wake up.
I need him.
You had one job.
He's a good dog, but he screwed the pooch.
Yeah, in his dreams he did.
Yeah.
Okay, so if the roll is already open-ended, such as sorcery, then the player may re-roll a single failed dice.
Oh, so that doesn't cost me a fate point then?
Yeah, it does. Like that's the effect of the fate point because it's already open-ended. So you did, and that was a failure.
Yeah.
So now we go into why we don't necessarily talk about failure states when it comes to sorcery, because there's a whole thing for that, and it's one of my favorite things. In
Is
this
it
game.
bad when it happens?
Could be.
Is there a chart you have to roll on?
Yes. Yes, there is.
That's why I love sorcery, man. I can't resist a random chart.
Yep. Where is it? Where is it? Oh, here we go. Okay. A sorcerer who botches a casting, does not meet the obstacle, is subject to 3 possible outcomes: harmless dissipation, garbled transmission, or unwanted summoning.
You know what? Option 3 sounds the most interesting to me.
Option 3 is terrifying. So
you say terrifying, I say interesting.
Yeah, it's been very cool in previous campaigns when that exact thing has happened. So the casting player should roll the die of fate, which is to say a d6, and we will consult the table. A 6, harmless dissipation.
Yeah.
So the spell fizzles in your grasp, and it does not infuse your sublime flesh.
Obviously, I'm too tired. Like I've just woke up. I maybe like misspoke slightly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you've sort of got that like slight slurred words. You know, them first thing in the morning. You're not quite there.
Bit carpet mouth.
Yeah. And now for the tax roll. So you're fort with obstacle 3.
Indeed.
As the power courses through you, but okay. So your fort temporarily drops by 1. As the power that courses through you takes some of your vitality with it.
So I presume I just put current tax as 1 on that, do I?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so Bryn attempts to harness the eldritch energies. However, she's still a bit sleepy and does not keep a hold on the energy, and it dissipates.
This is why I brought a crossbow.
Mm-hmm. So Günther rolls over, like cussing Hans, like goddamn flea bag, as he's trying to put on his breastplate backwards. And
I hear the people outside.
Yes, there are people outside. Now that they've got the door and you are awake, there's a lot of yelling, and they're yelling about interlopers.
Can I address them directly from behind the door?
No, the door. They have taken the door.
All right. Okay. Right. Can I address them directly then?
As they come in with pitchforks and torches, yes, you can.
I will say to them, surrender yourselves now and face mercy. Otherwise, prepare for the justice.
I love that. Prepare for the justice.
The justice.
Love it.
And it's just on his sword. It says the justice.
Yeah, I couldn't get the full sentence on. It cost too much.
Yeah, you ran out.
And the blacksmith charges by the letter.
Yeah. So, what do you want to do? Like, what are you
I don't. It doesn't
attempting?
have to have a mechanical effect. I'm just giving them the option to surrender now.
No. You're doing a thing that the game
Okay,
cares
so
about. So,
I am.
what do you want to happen?
I am giving them the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
They had the opportunity to surrender without bloodshed.
Mm-hmm.
We can deal with this in a civilized manner where I decide their fate.
Mm-hmm.
As is my station.
Yeah.
I'm giving them the chance of not dying because I am a knight.
Mm-hmm.
I am a trained martial man,
So,
and I will kill them if they come through that door.
so presumably your desired outcome is that they surrender peacefully.
That is right.
Yeah.
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 To surrender, to stop their foolishness at once.
Yeah. Let's see what.
I might just take an arm. I might just.
Just to remind them.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's the thing. What skill do you want to utilize in this? What is your attempted angle?
I don't think I have the baller skill.
I certainly don't.
Can I use oratory?
If you want to, and I wasn't gonna say it because I wanted you to make the discovery, that it kind of sounded like a speech.
It was.
you just
It was a
did.
commandment speech,
Yeah.
kind of like, this is, this is not right. You should not be doing this.
Yeah.
You know,
My fellow countrymen, this is not correct. This is not how you do
necessary.
things. You work within the system and you inflict gradual change, and eventually, my brothers and sisters, we will have freedom.
It's okay to be scared,
Yeah.
but it's not okay to murder people in the middle of the night.
Okay, so give me an oratory roll, and
Okay.
I will give you the. 1 moment, I will get you the difficulty. It is 3. The
So
will
it's not-
of these people is 3.
Well, yeah, because they probably outnumber us.
There's like a dozen outside at least.
But I do
There's
have a
1
6.
There's 1 6.
I'm gonna do it, mate. I'm gonna do it and use the fate point because I'd rather not kill them if I have the option to,
Mhm.
because it's not their fault that they're scared. That's how I see it.
Oof. Yep, you got it. So they back off, mumbling amongst themselves. The yells of interloper, they're outsiders. They should not have come here. Like Hawken is for us only. Like, what do we need these people out for? Like those die down slowly, and they start muttering amongst themselves, and they retreat from the door. But they are still outside. They are still grasping their pitchforks.
Yeah.
They are still grasping their torches, but they're not coming in.
They're not trying
and
to. Their
they're
violence
not
has dissipated.
they're not actively storming the house, but they're still hanging outside.
Okay. How long would it take me to put the rest of my armor on?
I don't have a good answer for you. You have your armor is plated mail, so it's a coat of something like padding underneath.
Yeah.
You have the chain, and you have a couple of large plate areas. So that will take at least minutes to get done.
Okay.
It's probably going to take you at least around about 10 minutes or so.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'll put my winter coat on.
Mm-hmm.
I will take make sure I have my sword on. My
Mm-hmm.
crossbow will be at the shoulder, and I will go to the door.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell them, I am from this town. I grew up in this town. My father raised me here. I am one of you. I may be a noble, but I am from the same stock. We have had the same food. We have traveled the same roads. I am a friend of this place. Treat me as such, and I will bring that friendship back to my lord, Duke, has sent me here to help you in your time of need. But if any of you raise arms against me or my compatriot again, you all will face justice.
Okay, so your intent is to make them never interfere with you again.
To pacify them. So,
Yeah.
yes, this will not happen again.
Yeah.
I'll mention my family name
Mm-hmm.
and a few people that I've met from the town.
Is there any chance I can aid in this?
Yes.
Since
What do you do?
I too have prayed at the temple. I too have walked these roads.
So I'm guessing this is like a skill roll.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to try and aid with my etiquette. So I'll be stood up there and I'll be trying to like point out probably like some historical example of how like nobles have responded in the past where like peasants have revolted, and we would my lord would save you from the fate that your ill-advised raising of arms may bring upon your heads. He extends the hand of friendship. Would you so heartlessly slap it away?
Cast it aside.
Also, it just dawned on me. I remembered it wrong previously about the stats and skills thing. So you can help stats with skills. However, you cannot do the reverse.
Right.
You cannot help a skill with a stat. Yeah, and you can always help skills with skills. That's fine.
That's fine.
So you're doing your etiquette bit, talking about like this is how it's properly done. Like this is how to act.
Thank God my lord have an etiquette dice.
Yep. So you can have an extra die when I presume you're like trying to spin this as another, like you're addressing the crowd.
What's going to happen if we fail?
If you fail, the leader, who is Angar, the local blacksmith, which you see in the crowd, Günther, and you recognize him.
Mm-hmm.
He's grown older, but he's sort of like the leader figure for this mob.
Mm-hmm.
If you fail, Angar will be successful in reigniting their fire, and you already have the fact that they're not gonna like now try and charge you unless some shit changes. But Angar will have an opportunity to get them against you again if you fail this.
Right.
No pressure, my lord.
So this is another etiquette roll.
Oratory is
oratory. Sorry, yes.
Yeah. You get a modifier of +1 because I've given you like an extra dice.
Yep.
Okay. No pressure. So modifier 1.
Mm-hmm.
And difficulty?
The difficulty is 3.
Jesus, man.
Or the obstacle, rather.
Oh, man. There is a 6. How many fate points do I have?
2. How many have you used?
2.
Okay, well that answers that. Then. Okay, so at this point in time, I draw your attention to the time. Do we want to? There's a little bit left in this particular thing here. Do we want to play more? Do we want to wrap it up? Maybe pick it up later if we want to continue. How do you guys feel about it?
I could probably do another like 20 minutes, but
yeah, I could probably do another 20 minutes, but that's it, probably.
Yeah.
Unless this is a perfect stopping point.
Yeah, I mean it's a good stopping point. However, we can wrap this first bit up. We can rapid pace some of this stuff. So I will be framing scenes rather aggressively, just so that we can like get this sorted out. And then if we want to pick it up, there's part 2 waiting in the wings. So you have your
fucked it.
you have your speech. You're trying to convince them that this is not the way, and also there's consequences for this sort of shit. And then you're being backed up by Bryn, talking about the proper way to treat nobles and historically what nobles have done in situations like this and what etiquette demands of them. because they need to be nobles. Like, you cannot have a noble that doesn't act like a noble, and nobles put down peasant rebellions, and they will not stand for this kind of deal. And Angar like raises his blacksmith hammer and says, what they speak is true. Nobles have always had a place, and they always will. However, it is regrettable, but as I have told you earlier in the Longhouse, there must be a sacrifice, as these people have offended our goddess. They are the harbingers of all of our woes recently. Was not your house destroyed? And like someone's like, yeah. Like, was not your family murdered? And there's a child who's like, and Angar just keeps waving his hammer about and says, these outsiders have caused the goddess to disfavor us, and come the summer, our fields will be fallow, lest we water them this winter with the blood of these outsiders. And he points the hammer at you guys, and people are going like, yeah.
I'm gonna try and change the situation a bit here. So I'm assuming at least some part of his hammer is made of metal.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Splendid. I was hoping you were going to say that.
It is definitely.
As he's sort of going like this, and I'm presuming he's not like gripping it massively tightly. He's just going, yeah. Go,
yeah, he's using it as like a stick, like an MC.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna like hold my hand out, and I'm gonna try and cast Call of Iron to like call it to my hand.
Yeah.
Where I basically have to make pulling something's a power test where power equals will. It's a will versus the enemy's power.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to help you, but I ain't got no magic.
Yeah, this is beyond your ability to help.
I thought I had this. I thought I had him.
You did, but at the last moment, there was an opening. So make your sorcery roll, please. Add obstacle. What was it?
Well, it says it's a will roll.
Well, you need to cast the thing first. Okay. Yeah. So sorcery first, and the obstacle is. Sorry, I'm jumping back and forth on your sheet because I'm trying to see that. So Call of Iron is obstacle 3, for sorcery. Yep.
Okay. Obstacle 3. Nah, it's not happening.
Oof. Okay. So D6 for the Die of Fate. Let's see what happens as you channel the Eldritch power.
Oh, come on, miscellaneous summoning.
3.
John, we're not having a great. We're sort of losing control of what's.
The situation has definitely escalated, my lord.
Yeah, it has. It definitely has. And 3 is still a harmless dissipation. So you channel the Eldritch power, but something is in the air that is disrupting the flow, and it fizzles out from your hand again. Fort roll, please.
He mentioned a goddess.
Yes.
What's the obstacle for the fort roll, sorry?
3.
Yeah.
Yep, no problem. So you withstand, like, it just slips between your fingers as you try to summon the iron.
Okay, so I'm obviously something is working against my magic here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fall back on a spell that I know I've practiced a number of times. I'm going to go with like my light spell because I'm like, fucking swirly lights around the staff. That'll be enough to like scare these like yokels.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to fall back
enrage them.
Yeah, well,
they're already enraged.
Yeah, Angar, you and Angar did a really good job of enraging them.
I tried to talk him down.
Sailed.
Yep, and you successfully did before, but Angar is changing the situation because there was an opening for it.
Because I had to walk outside and just tell him what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what's the obstacle for the?
For the light, word light, 2. Yeah. So you
yes,
summon.
I'm gonna step forward, and as he's like, "Oh, we need to water the fields with their blood. We need to make a sacrifice. They've angered our
Hold
goddess."
up.
I'm
Hold
gonna
up.
just like like Gandalf style, like mash my staff down into the snow, and I'm gonna be like, there is no divinity here. The light of truth will dispel your bloodlust and show it for the falsehood that it is." And as I say that, these like lights are going to swirl around my staff and sort
I'm
of
just like,
illuminate the area like a pure white radiance.
I'm not sure you should have done that, Bryn.
So as Gunther says that, and Bryn is illuminated in this bright white light, these people, the camera like rises up behind Bryn, and these people are all lit up, and everyone's like, oh, like what's going on? Like what is this? Like this is, ooh, like everyone is bewildered, and I will make a steel test for these yokels, trying to see what kind of stuff they're made of.
So many like Gunter telling out from behind me and be like, yeah.
Okay.
I'm just a little worried that they may think you're a witch and decide that they're going to burn.
They might double death me.
Yeah, they might double down now and just swarm us.
I'm just like, they're already talking about watering the fields with our blood. Like the time for like subtlety has obviously passed.
I'll be like, no, you have to wait. That's the etiquette in these combat situations. You got to wait for me to go put my armor on before we can engage.
Yeah, you're just like you're citing like the code duello at them.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So I will quickly revisit steel. If I can find it quickly enough. If not, then we're just gonna go forward. Ooh, where are you? Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah. All right. So, like half of these people are just like they're dropping to the ground and like incoherently like mumbling and crying. Around half of them, like a handful, are like running away in a panic. Angar is gonna just stand there like staring like what, like what is this? And behind this spectacle of these people, like it like basically bedlam breaks out, illuminated by the powerful light of Bryn's spell. Behind them in the street is illuminated a large hunched figure that rises up as this light hits it. It is a very large bear, black of fur. Half of its face is not covered with flesh at all. There's white skin that shines against the pure white light of Bryn's spell, and there's some like black slobber like coming from the beast's mouth, and it lets out a bellow, like standing up and like enhancing its figure as much as it can, and like bellows deafeningly at the crowd. And if people weren't panicking before, now they're just like scattering every which way.
So as I'm still holding like the lit staff of like sustaining like the light spell. I'm like, now maybe the time for your crossbow, my lord.
Oh dear. Okay.
So Gunther.
Yep.
Steel roll, please.
What? Oh.
There's.
Yeah, but I'm a noble.
Yeah, it's a bear. It's a bear, though.
Does the bear not understand its place?
No, it does not. It's an uppity bear.
Okay. Okay. Where do I make a steel roll?
It's
Is it
on the left
attribute?
side, attributes.
Power taste. Oh, it's steel. Yeah, I got you.
Yep.
Sorry. What's the difficulty then of this?
It's 4 for you.
Oh dear.
Cool. So your choice for 1 heartbeat, which is like one thing, kind of.
Yep.
Do you run screaming? Do you stand and drool? Let me reference my thing so that I know what all this is. So your options are fall prone and beg for mercy, stand and drool, swoon, run screaming, or because of your glory hound trait, you could charge this bear head on. One of these options you need to pick.
I think we know what you should do.
You bastard. That's there. You had to put that there, didn't you?
No, it was not me. It was pre-written.
Look, what is going to show these people that I'm here to protect them if I don't take on a big bear? Obviously, I'm going to charge.
So
Yep.
Show Demon Paddington what you're made of.
Yep. So
I've got half plate on.
So you charge the bear. Before you get to the bear, one of the villagers is like running in blind panic away from the light, and they have not seen the bear. And the bear comes down from its standing position and kind of smushes the villager as it tries to run past, not realizing that there's a bear.
Now, do I get a chance to shoot my crossbow before I get to it?
No. You. What happens is you drop the crossbow and you get your sword out and you charge.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Yes, let's do that.
I remember you fondly, my lord.
Obviously, my dog will come and help me at some point.
He's having a nap. No, I mean we'll deal with your dog afterwards. So
Please sound less sinister. It's an innocent dog.
So please charge the bear. Sword the bear.
I don't know how to do that. I'm guessing it's in the combat tab.
No, because this is Burning Wheel. Sword is just another skill for you.
Okay.
And you're free to use whatever weapon you like. You are skilled. Rather, you have all the weapons that you're skilled in. I presume you're not using your lance because that's like a horseback weapon, but whichever weapon you want to use, that's fine.
I probably would use my sword.
Yeah.
My axe would probably be on my horse.
Yeah. So you drop the crossbow and you're gripped by fear of this creature, and the way that you chose to confront this fear is like, my only option is to meet it head on, like everything else be damned. Like, here's like, give me glory or give me death. Like they taught you in night school. So we'll do this as a simple thing. So make your sword roll, and we'll have the bear oppose with the bear's savage mauling skill.
Okay, so it's difficulty 1 at the moment.
Yeah, we'll just measure like, and I presume your intent is to what? What do you want to do to the bear as you charge it with your?
Kill the bear.
Cool.
Stop
the bear
the bear.
also wants to like eviscerate you.
All right. Oh.
And that was the last I saw of Lord.
Oh, okay. This could be a snappy end to my character.
Okay. Let me set.
Do you have lots of health in this game?
We'll get to that soon, depending on how the bear rolls. Where is that sheet?
Anyone watching this in the future, I know the tactical choice would have not been to charge this bear, but glory be damned.
Yeah, and this is a very Burning Wheel choice that you just made. If you had set your character up to like with beliefs and instincts to deal with like reckless glory seeking and like dealing with his problems by like ignoring them and choosing violence, you would get rewarded by the system for pursuing exactly this type of foolishness. So you're right on point.
So I would get if I survive, I'll be rewarded. Is what you're telling me?
Depending on like if the rest of your character is set up for like benefiting from reckless bullshit, which you necessarily are not, if I remember correctly. But this is not a dumb thing straight up in Burning Wheel. This could be a smart thing to do.
Well,
depending. We'll see. So the bear is gonna roll. It's Savage Mauling skill. So it has, what was it?
does he get a minus for being blinded by the magical light?
That's a good point, and because this is a versus thing.
That's me like, tenuously hooking up.
This is good. This is good. This is what this is about. So there's a big light, and the bear is certainly like wary of the light because it does not understand or want the light to be there. So it's gonna suffer a +1 obstacle thing, which means that you got 1 success, even though you did not get, because it suffers 1, but you're rolling versus, so you get 1 because the bear has a.
If it gets 0, obstacle, then I win because of the +1.
Yep. So the bear is it has 5 in Savage Mauling, and it's gonna roll.
Oh.
1. It's a tie. It's a tie. It's a fucking tie. And it doesn't even have 6s to roll. Cool. So
can I beat it with poetry now?
We not yet. We'll take a while before we get to poetry. Next step, I'm gonna propose strength, like opposed power rolls. Like which one of you is stronger? Unless you have like a different, like what do you want to do next?
I have a skill that I could use.
Which is?
So I could either punch it or nut it with my brawling skill.
Yeah, you have brawling. Brawling is an excellent follow-up to this. So what happens in the game fiction is you charge it with the sword. Yeah. It tries to swipe you, and you do like a couple of exchanges, and that's not going to happen with his Savage Mauling skill or your sword skill. You cannot use those anymore. You will need to settle the score with some other thing. So you're choosing brawling. The bear is...
I'm going to punch it in the face.
Yeah. The bear, unfortunately, does not have any other like combat stuff aside from Savage Mauling. So it's going to have to revert to power, which will give you a success.
Because it needs to do double then.
Because it's using a stat and you're using a skill, and it's in an inferior position as a result. So you're gonna get like 1 success either way.
What's the base obstacle then for this?
It's just 1. Like we're just measuring.
Opposed.
But on top of whatever you roll, you will have 1.
I get 2 successes in total.
2 successes, cool. So the bear is gonna roll.
Help me, Bryn.
I'm cognizant of the time, but I really want to check so you don't get screwed.
I was going to say, don't worry, Gunter. I'll just reel out all those combat stats that I don't have.
Maybe it has like a metal filling in its teeth you can pull out.
I'm guessing it probably has like quite a high power rating, so I'd just be like
8.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Yeah, it has 8 power.
What about the phantasmal force thingy you did?
Yeah, but it can only do like simple things, so I can make a phantasmal force that might be like.
You could push it over. You could make it knock it over onto its belly.
It's not strong enough to like push it over. My initial thought was like if you retreated, I could like try and bind its feet to the ground, but of course you charged in, so that's not really much use.
Look, you just gotta how you deal with a bear. You gotta show it who's boss. Obviously, if the villagers attack me now, then I'm really in trouble.
Oh yeah, no, this is great because I'm remembering stuff that I've forgotten about this game. So the way that this works, I think, and anyone watching, we have probably made a lot of mistakes because we're all kind of like fresh to this. I've run this game a lot, but it's been a while. So I think the way that this works is this bear is using like a non-existent, let's say it's using brawling as well, but it doesn't have the skill. Mm-hmm. So it's reverting to power. and you're using a skill, so you get to have your thing straight. So you have 2 successes. The bear is going to half its successes. Alternatively, you could say that it needs 4 because you have 2, and it's double because it's unskilled on his part. So either way, he's going to roll the 8 power that he has.
Come on.
Yeah. Let's see. Come on, Paddington. What's up? 5. 5 is what's up.
I got 2 though. I got 2 successes.
Yeah, you got 2,
I got
and
2.
he needs 4, and he got 5. Because you're using a skill, so he needs double what you got. You got 2.
Right,
He needs
okay.
4. He got 5.
Hello,
So
darkness, my old friend.
the bear wins.
I'll be playing someone else next time.
So it's using the
So
claws.
what do I do in this situation?
You suffer is what happens.
So how do I record this suffering?
So the bear has hit you with his claws, and if we turn to on your sheet, if you go to the combat bit at the very top is injury and recovery. That's kind of your like what is your situation like?
It's got a lot of BBs.
Yeah,
BRs.
on those you should have. Let me open up your sheet so that I'm not talking out of my ass.
Hand location.
Yeah, so on your sheet, the third column is SU, right? At the very top, left side.
The tolerance one.
Yeah, tolerance.
SU, yeah.
SU, yeah. So that means superficial wound. The neck, everything that's BR is bruised. Like ignore everything that's BR. So SU is superficial wound. LI is light wound. M is midi wound. DR is traumatic wound, and M is mortal wound. M is if something hits into your M bracket, you die. And
right, I don't want that to happen.
No, that is not something you would want necessarily. So the bear has hit you, and it has not hit you like spectacularly. So the hit is I forget what that's like, a medium hit or whatever, like the average hit with its claws, and that means you get a B9 wound as a result because the bear succeeded where you failed. So you get a severe wound.
I do have armor on certain parts of my body.
Yes, and this is what we get into next. So the game doesn't really talk a lot about armor in straight up versus test, which is what we did. So this is kind of like whatever we want to do here. So you're facing a B9 wound to the chest, and you can roll. If I remember correctly, the armor that you have is 5 dice because it's plate mail, and it's the chest because the bear doesn't have a great hit, so it cannot like hit you anywhere else. So a chest gets +1 die by default. So you can roll 6d6 for me.
Yep.
And we'll see what happens.
Actually, I think it's 66 by default on here, so this is got it on the sheet.
Huh. Okay. Yeah, maybe I already calculated a year ago when I set this thing up.
Okay. So I just roll the dice and hope for the best.
Yeah.
Weapons versus armor. Value.
Oh, sorry. Let me see what that is. Bear, where are you? 2.
2, right? Okay. 4 successes.
Great. Okay, so the armor deflects the blow.
Oh!
There's a resounding clang as your armor gets a set of deep grooves across.
Authentic battle damage.
Yeah. And the force is enough to like drive you to your knees as a result.
Yeah.
And to wrap this whole thing up, the bear moves away from you, having defeated you in this combat. Like you tried to get at it.
Well,
you failed. The bear like smacked you down hard, so you're like down in the snow. And
Defeat is a strong word.
it literally defeated you. So the bear backs away from you, savages a couple of villagers, traipses through this house back here, like just goes through the wall, destroys it, and heads for the wilderness. And I think we can like roll the credits as Gunther is like pushing himself up from the snow, like snow clinging to his face, and like his heart just beating in his chest, almost having severely been mauled. There's a bunch of mayhem in the background with villagers running this way and that, and Bryn standing there with the bright light.
Sweet.
We'll end it at that.
Brilliant. Thanks very much for running it. Very much enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you for playing.
Thank you very much for doing that for us, man. Great Wheelmaster.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty then. So we did not track a lot of the advancement.
I assume you get a lot of XP for beating a bear. Which I obviously didn't do, but you know,
you made a good, strong attempt.
I made a good show of myself, didn't I? I mean,
you did. You absolutely did. The thing with Burning Wheel is there's multiple levels of advancement. So the thing that we didn't really track in this session, because it's not something that's extremely relevant to short games of Burning Wheel, is advancing the skills themselves. So each one of these rolls that we've made that are not a part of the same like resolution. So for example, your fight with the bear, you rolled sword and brawling. You would pick one of those skills to add like an advancement check to, as a result of having rolled it. And each roll that is like stands on its own, you would mark an advancement thing as you roll, and that's how the skills advance. So when you roll sword enough times in enough like variance in difficulty, your sword will rise up, so you will get more dice with the sword by using the sword.
So you need to use skills to get the skills up.
Yes, kind of like the Elder Scrolls method, that you do the thing and then you get better,
at the thing. Until you get ridiculous at the thing.
Yeah, and then then the good shit starts. And then the second thing is we didn't really track where you guys spent your fate points. That's also a thing in Burning Wheel. So where you spend your fate and persona and deeds points, and that is like a long-term advancement thing, but that advances your success number within the roll. So whereas now you succeed on a 4, 5, and 6, if you spend a lot of all kinds of fate, persona, and deeds points into one specific stat or skill, it might change it eventually to succeed on a 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Or 2?
Yeah, or 2 if you are like god tier. Right? But
if you really double down.
Yeah, if it's a long campaign and you've really devoted yourself to the one thing,
you get really good at
you
carpentry.
get real good.
Like you could really put some stuff together.
Yeah, or like you could have a real high village of Hawken wise, so you would know
everything about the village.
Yeah,
that would kind of be a bit of too much for this adventure, though, because then I'd just be like, but I know. I know what's going on.
But that's the sort of thing that we don't really devote a lot of attention to in like a short game, because that's not relevant as such.
Sort of out of scope of what's going on.
Yeah, definitely. And the way that you get these points, fate, persona, and deeds, is tied to your character's beliefs, instincts, and traits.
So me charging into that bear because I'm a glory hound was the right thing to do from that side of things.
Yeah, you would definitely get at least a fate point for taking the story into a direction by referencing your trait. You have a
Bring
trait
it.
that you can point to, Glory
Yeah.
Hound, that really like put a twist
Yeah.
into the situation. So
I was
and
really hoping for some sorcery help, but I realized that John character could move a thing, can make a thing glow, can make an invisible thing do a thing.
Yeah, I'm not a battle wizard by any means.
Not yet.
Yep. But that's a bite-sized bit of Burning Wheel.
It was a nice bite. I enjoyed it.
And I know that we muddled through a little bit because there's a lot to Burning Wheel. But I hope that was all right, all things considered.
Yeah, very much enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, it was good.
Yep.
It was a learning experience. It was fun. Always good to play with you guys. And I enjoy a bit of nobility. Banters.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see what's actually going on with the town. Like something's obviously up with them.
Yeah, something's up in Denmark, as they say.
Right, I suppose I should stop the recording there then, guys. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Right, okay, so anyone who's watching, we had a few people. I know Rob jumped in for a little bit and commented on it. So,
hello.
Anyone who's watching, we will catch you later. Hopefully we might revisit this in the future. So take care.
Yep. Bye-bye.